The Blind Girl Who Fooled an Alpha King. Tonight, I'm bringing you a story about survival, deception, and forbidden power in the most brutal werewolf territory you've ever heard of. A girl who pretended to be blind for 10 years. An Alpha King who sees through everything, and one decision under the full moon that changed everything. This is going to get intense, so stick with me until the very end. You won't believe how this plays out. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from, and let's get started. The scent of blood hung in the air like a promise. Lyra Vane kept her eyes unfocused, staring at nothing as the pack gathered in the central courtyard. She could feel them around her, bodies shifting, voices rising and falling in that particular rhythm that meant someone was about to get hurt. Her fingers trembled against the rough stone wall she'd pressed herself against, but she kept her face blank, empty, the face of someone who couldn't see the violence coming. "Did you hear?" The voice belonged to Maris, one of the younger she-wolves who enjoyed cruelty the way others enjoyed sunshine. "They're bringing in fresh meat today. Some rogue from the eastern border thought he could just walk into Silverfang without permission." Lyra's stomach tightened, but she didn't move, didn't react. 10 years of this. 10 years of standing in corners while the pack tore itself and others apart, and she'd survived every single day by being invisible, by being nothing. "What's the blind girl doing here?" another voice asked. Male, dismissive. "Who cares? She can't see anything anyway." The laughter that followed was casual, almost kind. That was the worst part. They didn't even hate her enough to be cruel on purpose. She was just there, like furniture, like dust. Lyra let her breath out slowly, counting the seconds. Her mother's voice echoed in her head, the same words she'd whispered the night she died. "They only claim what they can see, little moon. If they can't see you, you're safe. You have to hide. You have to disappear." So she had. The crowd surged forward suddenly, and Lyra felt the shift in energy like a physical thing. Someone important had arrived. The voices changed, became tighter, more controlled. Fear and respect mixed together into something sharp. "Make way for Alpha Draven." The name hit her like cold water. Kael Draven, the Alpha King. She'd heard the whispers for 3 days now, ever since word spread that he was coming to Silverfang territory. They said he could read minds, that he could smell lies, that he'd killed his own father in single combat and taken control of the northern territories before he was 25. They said he saw everything. Lyra's pulse hammered in her throat, but she kept her eyes glazed, her posture slack. Just another piece of the wall. Nothing to notice. "Where's Ronan?" Kael's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Quiet, but impossible to ignore. "Right here, my lord." Ronan Voss. Of course. The second in command of Silverfang, and the man who'd been circling Lyra like a shark for the past year. He wanted her mother's bloodline, wanted the inheritance that technically belonged to her even though no one acknowledged it. If he could force a claim before she turned 21, everything her mother had protected would become his. "Your message said you had a security issue," Kael said. "Let's see it." The crowd parted, and Lyra caught the scent of fresh blood again, stronger now. They were dragging someone forward. She heard the wet sound of a body hitting stone, heard the labored breathing of someone who'd been beaten badly. "This rogue crossed our border 3 nights ago," Ronan said, and Lyra could hear the satisfaction in his voice. "We caught him stealing food from the northern storehouse." And we thought you'd want to make an example of him. Show Silverfang how you handle disrespect." Silence. The kind that made Lyra's skin crawl. When Kael spoke again, his voice was colder. "You thought I came here to perform for you?" "No, my lord. How old is he?" A pause. 16, maybe 17. "And he stole food?" "Yes. Not weapons, not territory. Food." Ronan's voice became defensive. "The law is clear. Border violations? Get him out of here." Kael's words were flat, final. "Feed him. Get him medical attention. Then send him home with enough supplies for a month." The courtyard went silent. Lyra felt something shift in her chest. Something dangerous. Curiosity. This wasn't what she'd expected. Wasn't what anyone had expected. "My lord," Ronan said carefully, "with respect, that sets a dangerous precedent. If we show weakness, If you think feeding a half-starved kid is weakness, Then we need to have a longer conversation about what strength actually means. Kale's footsteps moved closer, and Lyra heard the distinctive sound of him crouching down near the injured rogue. "What's your name?" The boy's voice was raw. "Finn." "Finn, you got family?" "2 sisters. We're hungry." "Yeah, I can see that." Fabric rustled, Kyle standing up again. "Ronan, have someone take Finn to the kitchens. Make sure his sisters are taken care of too." "But the territory laws are mine to interpret, and I'm interpreting them right now." There was steel underneath the quiet now. "Unless you want to challenge that." Ronan's silence was answer enough. Lyra felt the crowd beginning to disperse, felt the energy shifting from anticipation to confusion to grudging acceptance. She started to ease away from the wall, moving with the careful, uncertain steps of someone who couldn't see where she was going. "Hold on." Kale's voice stopped her dead. The girl against the wall, the one with the white cane. Every muscle in Lyra's body locked up. "That's just Lyra," Ronan said dismissively. "She's blind. Been here for years. Harmless. Blind." Kael's footsteps approached, slow and deliberate. "You're telling me she's been standing here this whole time, listening to everything, and nobody thought to move her somewhere safer?" She's fine. She can't see anything anyway." Lyra kept her breathing steady, kept her eyes unfocused on a point somewhere past Kael's shoulder. She could feel him now, standing directly in front of her, close enough that she could smell leather and pine and something darker underneath, close enough to be dangerous. "What's your name?" he asked. She let her voice come out soft, uncertain. "Lyra Vane, my lord." "Vane." He said it slowly, like he was tasting it. "That name means something here, doesn't it?" "Her mother was high-born," Ronan said quickly. "But that was a long time ago. Lyra's just a ward now. We take care of her out of respect for her mother's memory." It was almost true. The pack did take care of her, in the sense that they let her sleep in a corner of the servants' quarters and didn't actively try to kill her. Everything else was survival. "Look at me, Lyra." Her heart stopped. This was it. The moment her mother had warned her about. The moment someone looked close enough to see through the lie. She lifted her face toward him, keeping her eyes unfocused, letting them drift just slightly to the left of where his voice had come from. It was a trick she'd perfected over years, looking without seeing, being present without being there. Kale was silent for a long moment, then, "When's the last time anyone checked her eyes? Made sure she was getting proper care?" We haven't set up an appointment with a healer today." Kale's voice softened, just slightly. "Lyra, I'm going to be staying in Silverfang for a few weeks. If you need anything at all, you come find me. Understood?" Lyra nodded, not trusting her voice. "Good." His footsteps moved away, and she heard him say something low to Ronan, too quiet for her to catch. The crowd dispersed fully now, leaving her alone against the wall with her pulse hammering and her hands shaking. She'd survived, but for the first time in 10 years, she wasn't sure if that was going to be enough. The servants' quarters smelled like unwashed bodies and desperation. Lyra sat on her thin mattress in the corner, her back against the wall, listening to the other servants move around her. Most of them ignored her completely. A few felt sorry for her. None of them suspected the truth. "Did you see him?" Maris was saying, her voice high with excitement. "The Alpha King? He's even better looking than the rumors said. I heard he killed 17 wolves in the Northern Wars. I heard it was 30. I heard he can make you submit with just a look." Lyra tuned them out, her mind racing. The encounter in the courtyard had rattled her more than she wanted to admit. Kael hadn't exposed her, hadn't even seemed suspicious, but the way he'd looked at her. "Look at me, Lyra." No one had asked her to look at them in years. "Hey, blind girl." Lyra turned her face toward the voice. Senna, one of the older servants. Not cruel, but not kind either. "What?" "Ronan wants to see you. Now." Her stomach dropped. "Why?" "How should I know? Just go." Lyra stood slowly, reaching for the cane she kept by her mattress. It was a prop more than anything else. She didn't actually need it, but it sold the illusion, made people dismiss her even faster. The walk to Ronan's office was familiar enough that she could do it blind for real. Down the corridor, left at the main hall, up the stairs to the administrative wing. She kept her steps uncertain, her cane tapping against the stone floor. The door was open when she arrived. "Come in." Ronan's voice was tight. Lyra stepped inside, keeping her face blank. The office smelled like old paper and whiskey. She'd been here before, usually when Ronan wanted to remind her that she was nothing, that he could take everything from her whenever he wanted. "Close the door." She did, her fingers finding the handle with practiced ease. "Sit." There was a chair in front of his desk. She'd sat in it a dozen times. She felt for it now, lowering herself carefully. "Do you have any idea," Ronan said slowly, "how much of a problem you just became?" Lyra kept her expression neutral. "I don't understand, sir." "Don't you?" He stood up and she heard him move around the desk. "The Alpha King takes an interest in a blind servant girl, tells me to get her medical care, tells her to come to him if she needs anything." He was close now, standing right in front of her. "What did you do?" "Nothing. I didn't—" "Don't lie to me." His hand shot out, gripping her chin. Not hard enough to bruise, but hard enough to control. "You think I don't know what you are? What you've been hiding?" Terror spiked through her, but she kept her eyes unfocused, kept her breathing steady. "I'm not hiding anything. Your mother's bloodline. Your inheritance. You think I've forgotten?" His thumb pressed against her jaw. "You turn 21 in 3 months, Lyra. 3 months, and everything she left becomes legally yours. Unless someone claims you first." There it was. The threat he'd been holding over her for a year. "I don't want it," Lyra said, and it was almost true. She didn't want the political nightmare her mother had left behind. She just wanted to survive. "You can have it. I'll sign whatever you want. It's not that simple." Ronan released her chin, stepping back. "The claim has to be formal, public, and now we have the Alpha King watching you like you're something precious." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Do you know what he'd do if he found out you could see? If he found out you've been lying to everyone for 10 years? "He won't find out." "You better hope not." Ronan moved back behind his desk. She heard him pour something, whiskey probably. "Because if he does, I won't protect you. None of us will." Lyra stood carefully. "Is that all, sir?" "No." The word stopped her at the door. "The healer appointment. You'll go. You'll let them examine you, and you'll make sure they find nothing wrong. Understood?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Get out." She left, her legs shaking, her mind racing. 3 months until she turned 21. 3 months until Ronan could force a formal claim. And now she had the Alpha King's attention, which was either the best thing that could happen or the worst. Probably the worst. Itat. The healer's office was in the eastern wing, and Lyra arrived exactly on time the next morning. She'd barely slept, her mind spinning through scenarios, trying to figure out how to pass an eye exam when she could actually see perfectly. "You must be Lyra." The healer was a woman named Iris, her voice warm and professional. "Come in. Sit down." The examination room smelled like herbs and antiseptic. Lyra sat in the chair Iris indicated, her hands folded in her lap. "I'm going to do a basic examination," Iris said, "just to see what we're working with. The Alpha King was very insistent that you receive proper care." "I'm fine," Lyra said quietly. "Really, I've been this way since I was a child. I'm used to it." "Even so, let's take a look." The examination was thorough and terrifying. Iris checked her eyes with light, tested her peripheral vision, asked her to follow movements. Lyra kept her responses careful, controlled. She'd studied blindness for years, knew how to mimic the right reactions, knew how to fail the right tests. But Iris was better than she'd expected. "Your eyes look healthy," the healer said slowly. "No scarring, no obvious damage, but your pupils aren't responding quite right, because Lyra was controlling them, keeping them dilated just slightly too much." "I was told it was a birth defect," Lyra said. "Something with the nerves." "Possibly." Iris stepped back. "I'd like to do some more tests, more specialized ones." "I don't think that's necessary." The door opened. "How's our patient?" Kyle's voice. Lyra's heart slammed against her ribs, but she kept her face calm, kept her eyes unfocused. "Alpha King," Iris said, clearly surprised. "I wasn't expecting you. I wanted to check in." His footsteps approached. "What's the verdict?" Her eyes appear structurally sound, but she's showing signs of neural blindness. I'd like to run more tests to be certain. Do it. Whatever she needs. That's very generous, my lord. But no buts. Kale's voice was firm. She's under my protection now. Make sure she gets the best care available. Silence. Lyra could feel both of them looking at her. Lyra, Kale said, is there anything you want to tell me? The question hung in the air like a blade. No, my lord, she said softly. Thank you for your kindness. Kindness. He said the word like he was testing it. Right. Iris, finish up here. Lyra, when you're done, come find me. I have something I want to discuss with you. He left before she could respond. Iris completed the examination in silence, then finally said, You're free to go. I'll schedule the additional tests for next week. Lyra stood, reaching for her cane. Thank you. Outside in the corridor, she stopped to catch her breath. Her hands were shaking. This was getting too complicated, too dangerous. Kael was watching her too closely, asking too many questions. She needed to be more careful. She needed to disappear again. But when she made her way to the main hall, following the summons Kael had given her, she found him waiting in one of the private meeting rooms. He was standing by the window, looking out over the territory. Close the door, he said without turning around. Lyra did, her pulse racing. How long have you been pretending to be blind? The words hit her like a fist. She opened her mouth to deny, to deflect, to lie, but nothing came out. Kael turned to face her, and for the first time in 10 years, Lyra met someone's eyes directly. His were gray, cold, absolutely certain. I'm not? Don't. He crossed the distance between them in 3 steps. I've been watching you for 2 days. The way you move, the way you react to things you shouldn't be able to hear, the way you turn toward my voice before I finish speaking. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see the flecks of silver in his irises. So I'm going to ask you again. How long? Lyra's mind raced. She could keep lying, could try to salvage this, but looking into his eyes, she knew it was pointless. He'd already seen through her. 10 years, she whispered. Why? Because my mother told me to. The words came out raw, desperate. Because she said if they couldn't see me, I'd be safe. Because I'm weak and small and I have something they want, and the only way to keep it was to disappear. What do they want? My bloodline, my inheritance. I turn 21 in 3 months, and if I'm not claimed by then, everything my mother left becomes mine. Ronan's been waiting for the right moment to force a formal claim. She was talking too fast now, the words spilling out. If you expose me, he'll know I've been lying. I'm not going to expose you. She stopped. What? I'm not going to expose you, Kael repeated. But you're going to stop pretending, at least with me. I don't understand. You're smarter than everyone in this territory thinks you are. More observant, more capable. He tilted his head. And you've survived 10 years in a place that should have eaten you alive. That tells me you're exactly the kind of person I need. Need for what? To help me figure out what the hell is actually going on in Silverfang. He stepped back, giving her space. There's something wrong here. The way Ronan runs things. The way the pack operates. It's not right. And I need someone who can see things I can't. Someone no one pays attention to. Lyra stared at him. You want me to spy for you. I want you to survive. And I think working with me is your best chance of doing that. He moved back to the window. Ronan's going to make his move soon. You know that, right? He's not going to wait 3 more months. I know. So you have a choice. Keep hiding and hope he doesn't corner you, or step into the light and fight back. I can't fight him. He's stronger, faster, more connected? Kael glanced at her over his shoulder. Physical strength isn't the only kind that matters, Lyra. Your mother knew that. That's why she taught you to disappear. And what are you teaching me? To be seen. The words settled over her like a challenge. Kael turned fully now, his expression serious. I'm making you my personal attendant, starting today. You'll stay close to me, help me with whatever I need, and in return I'll make sure Ronan can't touch you. He'll know something's wrong. Let him know. Let him wonder. Kael's smile was sharp. The best way to protect you is to make you too valuable to lose. And the best way to do that is to put you somewhere no one can ignore you. Lyra's mind spun. This was insane. This was the opposite of everything she'd learned, everything she'd practiced. But looking at Kyle, seeing the certainty in his eyes, she felt something she hadn't felt in 10 years. Hope. Okay, she said quietly. Okay? I'll do it. I'll help you. Kyle nodded, satisfaction crossing his features. Good. First order of business. Stop using that damn cane. You don't need it, and it makes you look weak. That's the point. Not anymore. He moved toward the door. Come on. We have work to do. Lyra followed him, her heart hammering, her hands still shaking. She'd just made the most dangerous decision of her life, and she had no idea if she was going to survive it. Well, the next 3 days were a blur. Kyle kept her close, closer than anyone had been in years. She attended his meetings, stood beside him during pack gatherings, helped him review territorial reports, and slowly, people started to notice. Why is the blind girl always with him? I heard he made her his personal attendant. That's weird, right? Why would he want her? The whispers followed Lyra everywhere, but Kyle didn't seem to care. He treated her like she was competent, like her opinions mattered. It was disorienting and terrifying and somehow exhilarating all at once. Ronan, predictably, was furious. You're making a mistake, he told Kyle during a private meeting Lyra was present for. That girl is damaged goods. She's smarter than half your council, Kyle interrupted, and more loyal than most of them, too. Loyal? Ronan's laugh was bitter. She's been lying to everyone for 10 years. How is that loyal? She's been surviving. There's a difference. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. I don't know what game you're playing, Ronan said finally, but it's not going to work. She's mine. By law, by right, by nothing. Kyle's voice went cold. She's under my protection now. Touch her, and you answer to me. Ronan left without another word, but Lyra could feel his rage like a living thing. He's going to escalate, she said quietly after he was gone. I know. He could challenge you. Let him. Kale glanced at her. Do you trust me? It was a strange question. Lyra had spent 10 years trusting no one, but looking at him now, remembering the way he'd fed a starving rogue instead of punishing him, the way he'd protected her without asking for anything in return. Yes, she said. Good, because things are about to get complicated. He had no idea how right he was. That night, as Lyra made her way back to the servants' quarters, she was stopped by a woman she didn't recognize. Tall, elegant, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see too much. Lyra Vane, the woman said, her voice smooth as silk. I've been wanting to meet you. Who are you? Saris Vale. I'm an envoy from the Eastern Territories. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I arrived this morning, heard some very interesting things about you. Warning bells went off in Lyra's head. I'm just a servant. Are you? Saris stepped closer, and Lyra felt something shift in the air, something subtle and wrong. Funny, you don't move like a servant. You don't talk like one either. I don't know what you mean. Don't you? Saris reached out, her fingers brushing Lyra's cheek. The touch was light, almost gentle, but it made Lyra's skin crawl. I have a gift, you see. I can sense things. Emotions, lies. And you, little one, are wrapped in so many lies I can barely see the truth underneath. Lyra stepped back. I need to go. Of course. But before you do... Saris leaned in close, her breath warm against Lyra's ear. You should know that Kael Draven isn't the savior you think he is. He uses people, discards them, and when he's done with you, there won't be anything left. She pulled back, her smile widening. Sleep well, Lyra. Lyra didn't sleep at all. She lay on her mattress, staring at the ceiling, Saris's words echoing in her head. The woman was dangerous. Lyra could feel it, but she didn't know how, didn't know what kind of threat she represented. The next morning, she went to find Kael. He was in the training yard, working through combat forms with a speed and precision that made Lyra's breath catch. She'd seen wolves fight before, but this was different. This was art. He stopped when he saw her, his chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. You're up early. I met someone last night, Lyra said. Saris Vale. Kael's expression darkened. What did she say to you? That you use people, that I should be careful. She's not wrong. The admission caught Lyra off guard. What? I do use people. That's what leaders do. Kale grabbed a towel, wiping sweat from his face. The question is whether I use them fairly, whether I give them something in return. And what are you giving me? Protection, purpose, a way out. He met her eyes. What did you have before me? A corner in the servants' quarters and a death sentence hanging over your head. It was brutal, honest, and completely true. Ceres is dangerous, Lyra said. I don't know how, but she's an emotion manipulator. Kale's voice was flat. Rare gift, very powerful. She can make you feel things that aren't real, make you doubt things you know are true. Why is she here? Because the Eastern Territories want to know what I'm doing in Silverfang, and because Ronan probably invited her to help him get rid of me. Lyra's stomach dropped. What do we do? We stay alert, we trust each other, and we don't let her get in our heads. Kyle stepped closer. Can you do that? I've been lying to myself for 10 years. I think I can handle a little emotional manipulation. He smiled. Actually, smiled. Good. Because I need you sharp today. Why? Because tonight is the pack gathering, and I'm going to announce that you're more than just my attendant. Lyra's heart stopped. What does that mean? It means, Kael said quietly, that I'm claiming you as part of my inner circle, officially, publicly. And once I do, Ronan can't touch you without starting a war. He'll never accept that. I know. Kael's smile turned sharp. That's what I'm counting on. The day passed in a haze of preparation. Lyra found herself dressed in clothes that actually fit, her hair brushed and arranged by servants who'd never looked at her twice before. It was surreal, terrifying. By the time evening came, she felt like she was walking toward her own execution. The pack gathering was held in the Great Hall, and it seemed like every wolf in Silverfang had turned out. Lyra stood beside Kael at the front of the room, her hands clasped behind her back to hide the shaking. Ronan was there, his expression carved from stone. Ceres was there too, watching everything with those two knowing eyes. Kael raised his hand, and the room fell silent. I want to thank you all for your hospitality, he said, his voice carrying easily. Silverfang has been educational. Polite laughter. During my time here, I've been evaluating your territory, your resources, your leadership. His gaze swept the room. And I found something interesting. The tension ratcheted up. You have strength, you have numbers, but you're being run by someone who mistakes cruelty for power. The room went dead silent. Ronan stood slowly. Careful, Alpha King. Or what? Kael's smile was cold. You'll challenge me? Please, I'm begging you. You have no authority here. This is my territory. Actually, Kael interrupted, it's not. Silverfang falls under northern jurisdiction, which means it falls under mine. And I've decided to make some changes. You can't. I just did. Kael gestured to Lyra. Starting tonight, Lyra Vane is under my direct protection. Anyone who harms her, threatens her, or tries to force a claim on her will answer to me personally. The room erupted. Ronan's face went white with rage. She's nothing. She's smarter than you, braver than you, and she's exactly the kind of person this territory needs. Kael's voice cut through the noise. The question is whether you're going to accept that, or whether we're going to have a problem. Ronan took a step forward, his hands clenched into fists, and then Ceres spoke. How fascinating. Her voice was soft, but it carried. The Alpha King, protecting a blind girl. Tell me, Kael, what exactly do you see in her? The question landed like a bomb. Kael looked at Ceres, his expression unreadable. Then he looked at Lyra, and in front of the entire pack he said, everything. The word hung in the air, Lyra's breath caught, and Ronan lunged. He didn't shift, didn't have time. He just moved, fast and brutal, his hand reaching for Lyra's throat. But Kael was faster. He caught Ronan mid-strike, his grip iron around the other man's wrist. For a moment they stood frozen, power crackling between them. Then Kael twisted. The sound of bone breaking was loud in the silence. Ronan screamed, dropping to his knees. Touch her again, Kael said quietly, and I'll kill you. He released Ronan, letting him collapse to the floor. The pack was silent. Kale turned to face them all. Meeting's over. Get out. They left in a rush, whispers following them out the door. Only Lyra remained, standing beside Kael, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "Are you okay?" Kael asked. She nodded, not trusting her voice. "Good." He looked down at Ronan, who was still on the floor, cradling his broken wrist. "You have 24 hours to leave Silverfang. If you're still here after that, I'll make what just happened look like mercy." Ronan looked up, his eyes filled with hate. "This isn't over." "Yes," Kael said, "it is." He turned, placing a hand on Lyra's back, guiding her toward the door. They were halfway across the courtyard when Lyra finally found her voice. "You just made an enemy for life." "I know. He's not going to just leave. He's going to try to kill me, try to kill you, try to burn everything down." Kael glanced at her. "I know, but that's tomorrow's problem. What's tonight's problem?" He stopped walking, turning to face her fully. "Tonight's problem is figuring out what the hell I'm going to do with you." Lyra's breath caught. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you're not going back to the servants' quarters. You're not safe there." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. "You'll stay in the guest wing, near my rooms. People will talk. Let them." "Kael, I don't care what they say." His voice was fierce. "I care about keeping you alive. Everything else is noise." She should argue, should point out all the ways this was dangerous, all the ways it could backfire. But standing here looking at him, she couldn't make herself care. "Okay," she said softly. "Okay? I trust you." Something shifted in his expression, something vulnerable and raw. "You shouldn't," he said. "Why not?" "Because Saris was right. I use people. And eventually I'll probably use you too." "Then use me." Lyra stepped closer. "Use me to fix this territory. Use me to stop Ronan. Use me for whatever you need. Just don't leave me alone." The words came out more desperate than she'd intended. Kael's jaw tightened. "Lyra! I've been alone for 10 years. I've been nothing for 10 years. And in 3 days you've made me feel like I'm actually worth something." Her voice cracked. "So use me. Please, just don't send me back to being invisible." For a long moment, Kael just looked at her. Then he reached out, his hand cupping her face with unexpected gentleness. "You were never invisible," he said quietly. "You were just surrounded by people too blind to see you." And before Lyra could respond, before she could process what was happening, he leaned down and pressed his forehead to hers. It wasn't a kiss, wasn't even close, but it felt more intimate than anything she'd ever experienced. "Come on," he said finally, pulling back. "Let's get you somewhere safe." They walked through the darkened corridors together, side by side, and for the first time in a decade, Lyra didn't feel the need to hide. The guest wing was nicer than anywhere Lyra had ever stayed. The room Kael gave her had an actual bed, clean sheets, a window that looked out over the territory. She stood at that window now, watching the moon rise, her mind spinning. Everything had changed. In one night, her entire world had shifted. Behind her, she heard the door open. "I brought you something to eat," Kael's voice. She turned to find him carrying a tray of food, real food, not the scraps she was used to. "You didn't have to." "I know." He set the tray down on the small table. "But I figured you probably didn't eat today." He was right. She'd been too nervous to even think about food. "Thank you," she said quietly. Kael nodded, turning to leave. "Wait." He paused at the door. "Why are you doing this?" Lyra asked. "Really? What do you get out of protecting me?" He was silent for a long moment. Then, "My father used to say that a good leader builds strength. But my mother taught me something different. She taught me that a great leader protects the vulnerable, not because it's strategic, not because it serves a purpose, but because it's the right thing to do." "That's not an answer, isn't it?" He looked back at her. "You're smart, Lyra. Perceptive. You see things other people miss, and you've survived things that would have broken most people. That's not weakness. That's not something to hide. But I'm protecting you because you deserve to be protected. And because I think you're going to surprise everyone, including yourself, when you finally stop running. The words settled over her like a promise. Get some rest, Kael said. Tomorrow's going to be harder than today. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Lyra stood alone in the room, her chest tight with emotions she didn't have names for. She'd spent 10 years hiding, but maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop. She didn't hear the window open, didn't hear the footsteps crossing the floor, didn't realize she wasn't alone until a hand clamped over her mouth and a voice whispered in her ear, "Hello, little liar. Time to pay for your sins." Lyra's scream died in her throat as darkness swallowed her whole. The hand over Lyra's mouth smelled like leather and something chemical, chloroform maybe, or something worse. She tried to scream, tried to fight, but her limbs felt heavy, disconnected. "Don't struggle," the voice whispered. Male, unfamiliar. "Makes it worse." Darkness pulled at the edges of her vision. Her knees buckled. The last thing she heard was the window closing. Then nothing. Or tuts. She woke to pain. Her head throbbed, her mouth tasted like copper, and her wrists were bound behind her back with rope that cut into her skin. She was on the floor, cold stone, rough against her cheek. Lyra kept her breathing steady, kept her eyes closed. Listening. 2 sets of footsteps. Moving around her, talking in low voices. Said she had to be alive. She is alive. Barely counts as breathing, but alive. Ronan's not going to be happy we drugged her this hard. Ronan. Of course. Lyra's mind raced through her options. She was tied up, probably in some basement or storage room based on the smell of mildew and old stone. 2 guards, maybe 3. And Ronan was coming. She needed to get out before he arrived. "Think the Alpha King will come for her?" one of the guards asked. "Probably. That's the point, isn't it? She's bait." "Yeah, but Kael Draven isn't stupid. He'll know it's a trap." "Doesn't matter. He claimed her in front of everyone. His pride won't let him abandon her now." Lyra's stomach twisted. They were right. Kael would come. And Ronan was counting on it. She had to warn him. "She's waking up," one of the guards said. Footsteps approached. A boot nudged her shoulder. "Hey, blind girl. Time to open those pretty eyes." Lyra let her eyes flutter open, keeping them unfocused. The room swam into view. A basement, just as she'd thought. 2 men standing over her, both armed. "There she is?" The one who'd spoken crouched down, his face too close. "Bet you're wondering what's happening, huh?" Lyra said nothing. "Not much of a talker. That's fine. You'll talk when Ronan gets here." "Where?" Her voice came out hoarse. She swallowed, tried again. "Where am I?" "Somewhere your precious Alpha King won't find you. Not in time, anyway." The door at the top of the stairs opened. Footsteps descended, heavier, more deliberate. Ronan appeared, his wrist wrapped in bandages from where Kael had broken it. His face was a mask of controlled rage. "Leave us," he said. The guards didn't argue. They climbed the stairs and shut the door behind them. Ronan stood there for a long moment, just looking at her. Then he smiled. 10 years, he said quietly. 10 years you've been playing this game, and I fell for it. We all did. Lyra kept her expression neutral. "I don't know what you mean." "Don't you?" He crossed the distance between them in 2 strides, grabbing her chin the way he had in his office. But harder now, crueler. "You can see. You've always been able to see. And you made fools of us all." She didn't answer. "Kael knows, doesn't he? That's why he's been keeping you so close." Ronan's grip tightened. "What did you promise him? What did you give him to earn his protection?" "Nothing." "Liar." He released her chin, shoving her head back. "You think I don't know what you are? You're a manipulator, just like your mother. She played her games too until they got her killed." Rage flared in Lyra's chest, hot and vicious. "Don't talk about my mother." "Why not? She was weak, pathetic. Thought she could hide her bloodline, hide her power, and keep you safe." Ronan laughed. "Look how well that worked out. She kept me alive. She made you a coward." He crouched down in front of her, his eyes boring into hers. "But that ends tonight. Tonight you stop hiding. Tonight you become mine." Lyra's blood went cold. "What?" "I'm going to claim you, formally, publicly. His smile widened. "And there's not a damn thing Kael Draven can do about it. He'll kill you." "Will he?" Ronan stood, pacing now. "See, that's where you're wrong. Kael's strong, sure, fast, dangerous. But he's also bound by his own rules. He can't just execute me without cause, not without starting a civil war." "Kidnapping isn't cause?" "Who said anything about kidnapping?" Ronan's voice turned cold. "As far as anyone knows, you came here willingly, realized that Kael was using you, decided to accept my claim instead." "No one will believe that, won't they?" He stopped pacing, looking down at her. "You've been lying for 10 years, Lyra. Why would they believe anything you say now?" The logic was twisted, vicious, and completely sound. "The full moon is in 3 days," Ronan continued. "That's when I'll make my claim official. In front of the entire pack. In front of Kael." He smiled. "And you're going to stand there and accept it?" "Never." "You will. Because if you don't, I'll make sure Kael dies." Ronan's voice went soft, dangerous. "I've got 30 wolves loyal to me. More than enough to take him down if he's distracted. And you, little liar, are the perfect distraction." Lyra's mind raced. He was right. If she refused, if she fought, Kael would intervene. And against 30 wolves, even Kael couldn't win. "So here's how this works," Ronan said. "You stay here. Quiet. Obedient. And in 3 days, you become mine. Or you fight, and I kill everyone you care about." "I don't care about anyone." "Don't you?" His smile turned knowing. "I've seen the way you look at him, the way you follow him around like a lost puppy. You care, and that makes you weak." He turned to leave. "Ronan." He paused at the stairs. "Kael's going to come for me," Lyra said quietly. "And when he does, he's going to rip you apart." Ronan looked back at her, his expression almost pitying. Let him try. The door closed, and Lyra was alone in the darkness. Okay. Kael knew something was wrong the moment he woke up. The air felt different, off, like the world had shifted while he slept. He was out of bed in seconds, pulling on clothes, his instincts screaming. Lyra. He crossed the hall to her room, not bothering to knock. The door swung open to reveal an empty bed, an open window, and the faint scent of chemicals hanging in the air. His vision went red. "Lock down the territory," he snarled to the guard in the hallway. "No one in or out. Find Ronan, now." The guard ran. Kael stood in Lyra's room, his hands clenched into fists, his wolf clawing at his control. Someone had taken her. Someone had broken into his territory, into his protection, and stolen her right out from under him. And he had a pretty good idea who. He was halfway to Ronan's quarters when Saris stepped into his path. "Looking for someone?" she asked, her voice smooth. "Move. So aggressive." She tilted her head. "But I suppose that's to be expected. She's been taken from you, your precious little project." Kael's hand shot out, gripping her throat, slamming her against the wall. "Where is she?" Saris didn't struggle, didn't even look afraid. She just smiled. "Careful, Alpha King. Kill an envoy, and you start a war you can't win." "Tell me where she is." "Why would I know that?" "Because you've been in Ronan's pocket since you arrived." Kael's grip tightened. "You think I didn't notice? The way you whisper to him? The way you look at me like you're waiting for me to fail?" "Observant." Saris's voice was strained now, but still controlled. "But you're wasting time. Even if I knew where she was, which I don't, you'd never reach her in time." "In time for what?" "For Ronan to break her." Saris's smile widened. "He's very good at that, breaking things. By the time you find her, she won't even remember why she trusted you." Kael released her, stepping back. His wolf wanted blood, wanted to tear her apart for even suggesting, no, he couldn't lose control. Not now. "You're right," he said quietly. "I am wasting time." He turned and walked away, leaving Saris gasping against the wall. His mind was already working, already calculating. Ronan wouldn't take Lyra far. He'd want to keep her close, keep control of the situation, which meant she was still in Silverfang, still within reach. The question was where. Kael found his answer in the territorial map spread across the council room table. There were 3 locations that made sense: isolated, defensible, easy to guard. An old storage facility on the eastern border, a hunting cabin in the northern woods, and the underground chambers beneath the original pack house. He'd bet everything on the chambers. Assemble a team, he told his second. 5 wolves, fast and quiet. What about Ronan's guards? Leave them to me. Lyra had been working on the ropes for an hour when she heard footsteps on the stairs again. Her wrists were raw, bleeding from where she'd been twisting and pulling, but she'd managed to loosen the knots slightly. Not enough to escape, but enough that she might be able to slip free if she had a few more minutes. The door opened, but it wasn't Ronan. It was Saris. "Hello, little liar," the woman said, descending the stairs with that same unsettling grace. "Having fun?" Lyra said nothing. Saris circled her slowly like a predator sizing up prey. "You've caused quite a stir, you know. The entire territory is talking about you. The blind girl who wasn't blind. The servant who seduced an alpha king." "I didn't seduce anyone." "Didn't you?" Saris crouched down, her face level with Lyra's. "You made yourself indispensable. Made him believe you were worth protecting. That's seduction, sweetheart. Just a different kind." "What do you want? I want to understand." Saris tilted her head. "What is it about you that made Cale Draven, the man who's rejected every alliance, every mate bond, every connection offered to him, decide you were worth claiming?" "He didn't claim me." "Didn't he?" Saris's smile was knowing. "He stood in front of the entire pack and said you were under his protection. That's as close to a claim as it gets without an actual bond." Lyra's pulse hammered. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" Saris reached out, her fingers brushing Lyra's cheek. That same wrong feeling washed over her, like emotions that weren't hers were trying to sink into her skin. "Let me tell you what I see. I see a girl who's been alone so long she doesn't know how to accept help. I see a man who's been powerful so long he's forgotten what it means to be vulnerable, and I see a connection that's going to destroy them both. Get away from me." "Why? Afraid I'm right?" Saris's voice dropped to a whisper. "You know what the worst part is? Kael's going to come for you. He's going to walk right into Ronan's trap, and when he dies, it'll be because you made him care." The words hit like physical blows. "He won't die," Lyra said, but her voice shook. "No." Saris stood. "Then I suppose we'll see, won't we?" She left without another word. Lyra was alone again, Saris's words echoing in her head. "When he dies, it'll be because you made him care." No. No. She couldn't let that happen. Lyra attacked the ropes with renewed desperation, ignoring the pain, ignoring the blood. She had to get free, had to warn Kael, had to... The rope gave. Her hands came free suddenly, and she nearly sobbed with relief. She pulled off the bindings, her fingers numb and clumsy, and looked around the room for anything she could use. There. A broken piece of pipe in the corner, old, rusty, but solid enough to be a weapon. Lyra grabbed it, testing the weight. Then she moved to the stairs, listening. 2 guards outside, maybe 3. She'd have to be fast, smart. She'd have to be everything her mother had taught her not to be. Taking a breath, Lyra opened the door. Kael and his team reached the underground chambers just before midnight. The entrance was guarded, 3 wolves, all armed. They didn't stand a chance. Kael moved like violence incarnate, taking down the first guard before the man could even draw his weapon. The other 2 tried to run. His team caught them. "Where is she?" Kael asked, his hand wrapped around the first guard's throat. "I don't..." Kael slammed him against the wall. "Wrong answer." "Basement level, 3rd door on the left." Kael dropped him and moved. The corridors were dark, twisting, designed to confuse intruders. But Kael could smell her now, blood and fear, and that unique scent that was just Lyra. He followed it like a lifeline. The 3rd door was locked. He broke it down. The room was empty. No, not empty. There was blood on the floor, fresh, and the ropes that had bound her were cut clean through. "She got out," one of his team members said. "She's..." A scream echoed through the corridors. Kael ran. He found her in the main hall, surrounded by 4 guards. She had a pipe in her hands, blood on her face, and the look of someone who decided she was done running. 1 guard was already on the ground. The other 3 were advancing. Kael didn't hesitate. He tore into them like the predator he was, claws and teeth and ruthless efficiency. It was over in seconds. When the last guard fell, Kale turned to find Lyra staring at him, her chest heaving, her eyes wide. "You came," she whispered. "Of course I came." He crossed to her, his hands gentle on her face despite the violence still singing in his veins. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine. Her voice broke. "Kyle, it's a trap. Ronan's planning something. He said—" "I know." "You know?" "I know he's using you to get to me. I know he's probably got 30 wolves ready to ambush us." Kyle's thumb brushed across her cheekbone. "I don't care. You should care. You could die. And you could have died tonight." His voice went rough. "You think I'm going to let that happen?" "Kale, no." He pulled her closer, his forehead pressing against hers the way he had before. "No more arguments, no more hiding. You're mine to protect. Accept it." "I'm not yours." "Aren't you?" His eyes bore into hers. "Then why did you fight your way out instead of waiting for rescue? Why did you take on 4 armed guards with nothing but a rusty pipe?" "Because Lyra stopped, the words catching in her throat. "Because you what?" "Because I couldn't let you walk into a trap for me." The admission came out raw. "Because the thought of you dying because I was stupid enough to get caught made me want to tear the world apart." Kyle went very still. "Say that again," he said quietly. "I'm not going to—" "Lyra, say it again." She met his eyes, and for the first time in 10 years, she let someone see all of her. The fear, the loneliness, the desperate, terrifying hope that maybe she didn't have to be alone anymore. "I care about you," she whispered. "I care about you, and it's the stupidest thing I've ever done. But I can't seem to stop." Something shifted in Kale's expression, something fierce and possessive and almost afraid. "You're right," he said. "That is stupid." Then he kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't careful. It was need and relief, and 10 years of Lyra being untouched meeting the reality of Kale's control finally breaking. She kissed him back with everything she had, her hands fisting in his shirt, her body pressed against his like she could disappear into him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Kyle rested his forehead against hers again. "We need to go," he said, "before Ronan realizes you're gone. He's going to come after us." "Let him." They made it halfway to the exit before the ambush hit. Wolves poured out of the shadows, more than 30, just like Ronan had promised. They surrounded Kyle's team, cutting off every escape route, and at the center of them all stood Ronan, his face twisted with rage. "Did you really think," he said, his voice carrying through the chamber, "that I'd let you just walk out of here?" Kale pushed Lyra behind him. "This is between us, Ronan. Let my team go." "No," Ronan smiled. "See, I've realized something tonight. You're not going to leave Silverfang peacefully. You're not going to let me have what's mine. So I'm going to have to take it." "She's not yours." "Isn't she?" Ronan's eyes found Lyra. "Tell him, little liar. Tell him about the inheritance, about the bloodline, about everything you stand to gain when you turn 21. Kale went very still. "What is he talking about?" Lyra's heart sank. "Kale, she didn't tell you." Ronan's laugh was vicious. "Of course she didn't. She's been hiding that too. See, Lyra's not just some servant. She's the last heir of the Vane bloodline. And when she turns 21 in 3 months, she inherits control of half of Silverfang's resources." The team shifted, weapons rising. "That's why I want her," Ronan continued. "Not because she's pretty, not because I care, but because with her bloodline and my position, I can take control of this entire territory." "And you thought I didn't know that?" Kale's voice was ice. "You thought I was protecting her out of ignorance?" Ronan's smile faltered. "What? I've known about her inheritance since the day I arrived. I've known about your plans, about your ambitions, about every pathetic scheme you've been running." Kale's voice dropped lower. "The difference between us is that I don't need to force a claim to get what I want. I just need her to choose me." He turned to look at Lyra, his eyes holding hers. "So here's your choice," he said quietly. "You can go with Ronan, take your inheritance, play it safe, or you can trust me. Trust that I'll protect you. Trust that together we can build something better than either of us could alone." The chamber fell silent. Lyra looked at Ronan, at the hate in his eyes, the calculation, the cruelty. Then she looked at Kael, at the certainty in his expression, the quiet strength, the way he'd broken down a door to find her. It wasn't really a choice at all. "I choose you," she said. Ronan's face twisted. "You stupid! I choose him," Lyra said louder. "And if you want my inheritance, you're going to have to kill me for it." The words hung in the air like a declaration of war. Ronan's wolves shifted, ready to attack. Kael's team braced. And just as the violence was about to break loose, a new voice cut through the tension. "Stop!" Everyone turned. Ceres stood at the entrance to the chamber, but she wasn't alone. Behind her were a dozen wolves wearing the insignia of the Eastern Territories. "The Council has been watching this situation develop," Ceres said, her voice carrying easily, "and we've made a decision." "What decision?" Ronan demanded. "That Silverfang is no longer fit to govern itself." Ceres's smile was cold. "Effective immediately, this territory falls under Council jurisdiction. Ronan Voss, you are removed from command. Kael Draven, you are appointed temporary administrator until a formal review can be conducted." "You can't do that," Ronan snarled. "We just did." Ceres turned her gaze to Kael. "Of course, there are conditions." "There always are," Kael said flatly. "The girl." Ceres nodded toward Lyra. "Her inheritance is too valuable to leave unsecured. If you want to maintain control of Silverfang, you'll need to formalize your claim on her." Lyra's blood went cold. "What does that mean?" "It means," Ceres said, "that you and Kael need to complete a mate bond, publicly, before the next full moon." The chamber erupted into chaos. Kael's jaw tightened. "And if we refuse?" "Then the Council claims her inheritance directly, and you lose any authority over this territory." Ceres's smile widened. "So what's it going to be, Alpha King? Are you willing to bind yourself to her, or is your protection only good when it doesn't cost you anything?" Kael looked at Lyra. She looked back. And in that moment, they both understood the trap they'd walked into. The full moon was in 3 days. If they bonded, Lyra would be tied to Kael for life. No escape, no freedom, no choice. If they didn't, she'd lose everything her mother had died to protect. "We need to talk," Kael said quietly. "Alone." "You have 24 hours to decide," Ceres said. "After that, the Council makes the decision for you." She left, taking her wolves with her. Ronan was dragged away by Kael's team, still snarling threats, and Lyra stood in the center of the chamber, feeling like the world had just collapsed around her. Kael's hand found hers, warm and solid. "Come on," he said. "Let's get out of here." They walked back to the main compound in silence, Lyra's mind spinning. A mate bond. The words felt impossible, terrifying, final. When they reached Kael's private quarters, he finally spoke. "I'm not going to force you," he said. "Whatever you decide, I'll find another way to protect you." "There is no other way." Lyra's voice was hollow. "You heard her. If we don't bond, I lose everything. Then we'll fight the Council." "And start a war?" She laughed bitterly. "Great plan." "Lyra Swat, do you even want this?" The question came out sharp. "Or are you just trying to be noble?" Kael was silent for a long moment, then, "What I want doesn't matter." "Yes, it does." "Why?" "Because I'm not going to trap you into a bond you don't want just to save my own skin." Lyra met his eyes. "So tell me the truth. Do you want to be bound to me for the rest of your life? Yes or no?" Kael's jaw worked. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "I've spent my entire life avoiding exactly this. Avoiding connections. Avoiding vulnerability. Because every time I let someone in, they either used me or betrayed me or died." He stepped closer. "But you make me want to try anyway, and that terrifies me more than any war ever could." The honesty in his words stole Lyra's breath. "So yes," Kael said quietly. "I want this. I want you. But not because some council is forcing my hand. I want you to choose me because you want to, not because you have to." Lyra's hands were shaking. "And if I can't tell the difference, then we wait. We figure it out. We have 3 days, Kael." Her voice cracked. "In 3 days, either we bond or I lose everything. There's no time to figure it out." "Then what do you want me to say?" I want you to tell me this is going to be okay. The words came out desperate. I want you to tell me that bonding with you won't be the worst mistake of my life. Kael's hands cupped her face, tilting her head up. I can't promise that, he said. I can't promise I won't screw this up. Can't promise I won't hurt you. Can't promise anything except that I'll try. Every day. To be worth the risk you're taking. Tears burned in Lyra's eyes. That's not enough. I know. I need... Her voice broke. I need to think. I need... Go. Kael released her, stepping back. Take the night. Take however long you need. Just don't run, please. Lyra nodded, not trusting her voice. She left his quarters and made her way back to the guest wing, her mind a storm of fear and hope and confusion. A mate bond meant forever, meant no escape, meant trusting someone with everything she was. She'd spent 10 years learning not to trust anyone. How was she supposed to unlearn that in 3 days? Lyra collapsed onto her bed, staring at the ceiling. The full moon was in 72 hours, and she had no idea what she was going to do. She must have fallen asleep, because when she opened her eyes, sunlight was streaming through the window, and Ceres was sitting in the chair across the room, watching her. Lyra bolted upright. How did you... Your door wasn't locked. Ceres' smile was cold. You should be more careful. Get out. In a moment. Ceres leaned forward. First, I want to make you an offer. I don't want anything from you, don't you? Ceres tilted her head. What if I told you there was a way to keep your inheritance without bonding with Kael? A way to have your freedom and your power? Lyra's pulse quickened despite herself. I'm listening. The council doesn't actually care about you, Ceres said. They care about control, about making sure Silverfang's resources don't fall into the wrong hands. She paused. But what if those resources fell into my hands instead? What are you talking about? I'm talking about a partnership. Ceres' voice dropped. You sign your inheritance over to me. I use my influence with the council to have the mate bond requirement waived, and you walk away free. It sounded too good to be true, which meant it was. And what do you get out of this? Lyra asked carefully. Access to Silverfang's resources, a foothold in Northern Territory, power. Ceres smiled. I'm not pretending to be altruistic here. This is a business arrangement. And Kael loses any claim to this territory, but he keeps his life, his position, his precious morality. Ceres leaned back. Everyone wins. Lyra's mind raced. It was manipulation. She could feel it, but it was also tempting. A way out. A way to avoid the terrifying vulnerability of bonding with someone. Think about it, Ceres said, standing. You have 3 days, but the offer expires at the full moon. She left as silently as she'd arrived. Lyra sat alone in the room, her hands shaking. She had a choice. Freedom or connection, safety or risk, and only 3 days to decide which one would destroy her less. The full moon was coming, and with it, the moment Lyra Vane would have to step into the light and choose whether to claim her power alone, or let someone see her completely and risk losing everything in, or let someone see her completely and risk losing everything in the process. Lyra didn't leave her room for the rest of the day. She sat by the window, watching the sun move across the sky, Ceres' offer replaying in her mind like a broken record. Freedom, power, no strings attached. It sounded perfect, which meant it was poison. But the alternative, bonding with Kael, felt like stepping off a cliff with no guarantee of landing safely. A knock at the door startled her. It's me, Kael's voice. Can I come in? Lyra's throat tightened. It's your territory. The door opened. Kael stepped inside, closing it behind him. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes, tension in his shoulders. You didn't come to dinner, he said. Wasn't hungry. Lyra said, I need more time. The words came out sharper than she intended. You said I could have however long I needed. I'm taking it. Kael was silent for a moment. Then he moved to the window, standing beside her but not touching. Ceres came to see me today, he said quietly. Lyra's stomach dropped. What did she say? That she made you an offer, a way out of the bond. His eyes stayed fixed on the horizon. She wouldn't tell me the details, Said it was between you and her. Are you angry? Should I be? I don't know. Lyra's hands twisted in her lap. Are you going to ask me what the offer was? No. The answer surprised her. Why not? Because if you wanted me to know, you'd tell me. Kyle finally looked at her. I meant what I said last night. I'm not going to force you, not into a bond, not into staying, not into anything. The gentleness in his voice made her chest ache. What if I take her offer? Lyra asked. What if I walk away? Then I lose Silverfang, and you. He said it matter-of-factly, like he was discussing the weather. But you'd be free. So maybe that's the right choice. You'd just let me go? What else would I do? Chain you to my side? Kale's jaw tightened. I've seen what happens when people are forced into bonds they don't want. It destroys them. I won't do that to you. Lyra turned to face him fully. Even if it costs you everything? Even then. The conviction in his voice broke something inside her. Because Cerys was right. Kyle was too good, too noble, too willing to sacrifice himself for someone else's freedom, and that made him dangerous in ways Ronan could never be. I need to tell you something, Lyra said before she could lose her nerve. About my mother. Kyle waited. She didn't die of natural causes. The words tasted like ash. She was killed by someone in the pack, someone who wanted her bloodline, her power, her inheritance. Do you know who? No. But she knew it was coming. That's why she made me promise to hide, to disappear, because whoever killed her would come for me next. Kale's expression darkened. And you think that person is still here? I know they are. Lyra's hands were shaking now, because the attacks didn't stop when she died. They just got more subtle. The servants who accidentally put wolfsbane in my food, the guards who looked the other way when I was cornered, the whispers that I was cursed, that anyone who got close to me would suffer. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I didn't trust you. The admission came out raw. Because everyone I've ever trusted has either died or betrayed me, and I couldn't— Her voice cracked. I couldn't risk it. Kael moved closer, his hand cupping her face with devastating gentleness. I'm not going to die, he said, and I'm not going to betray you. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. Because I've spent 10 years building walls to keep people out, and you walked right through them like they were made of paper. So if you think I'm going to let someone take you from me now— The door slammed open. They both turned to find one of Kyle's team members, blood streaming down his face. We're under attack, he gasped. Ronan's forces. They broke out of containment. He collapsed. Kyle was moving before Lyra could process what was happening, checking the man's pulse, his expression going cold and focused. He's alive. Barely. Kale looked up at her. Stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. Kyle, I mean it, Lyra. His voice went hard. This is what Ronan wanted. To pull me away from you. To create chaos. Don't give him what he wants. He was gone before she could argue. Lyra stood alone in the room, her heart hammering. She should listen. Should lock the door and wait like he'd said. But the instinct that had kept her alive for 10 years was screaming. This was wrong. All of it. She grabbed the knife she'd hidden under her mattress, a habit from years of sleeping in places that weren't safe, and moved to the door. The corridor outside was empty, but she could hear fighting in the distance. Shouts, snarls, the wet sound of flesh tearing. Lyra moved toward the noise, every sense on high alert. The fighting was concentrated in the main hall. She could see Kyle at the center of it, moving with lethal precision, taking down Ronan's wolves one by one. He was magnificent and terrifying and completely focused, too focused to see the shadow moving behind him. Lyra's breath caught. Cerys. The woman was approaching Kyle from behind, something glinting in her hand. Not a weapon. Something smaller. A vial. Lyra didn't think. She ran. Kyle! He turned at her shout, and Cerys' hand missed his neck by inches. The vial shattered on the ground, releasing a cloud of sickly sweet smoke. Kyle grabbed Cerys by the throat, slamming her against the wall. What was that? Cerys smiled, even with his hand crushing her windpipe. Insurance. The smoke was spreading now, and wolves on both sides started to stumble. Their movements became sluggish, uncoordinated. Sedative, Saris choked out. Strong enough to drop an alpha. I was going to use it on you. Make you sleep through what comes next. What comes next? Kale's grip tightened. The real plan. Saris's eyes found Lyra. Did you really think this was about you? About your inheritance? Oh, little liar. You were never the prize. You were the bait. Lyra's blood went cold. What? Kale Draven, the Alpha King, untouchable, unbreakable, unbondable. Saris laughed, the sound wrong. But give him someone vulnerable to protect, and he becomes predictable, controllable, weak. Kale released her, stepping back. The Council sent you to manipulate me. The Council sent me to neutralize you. Saris rubbed her throat. You've been consolidating too much power, making too many enemies. They wanted you distracted, compromised. And what better way than to dangle a broken girl in front of you and watch you destroy yourself trying to save her? The words hit Lyra like physical blows. She was bait. All of it, Kale's protection, his interest, his claim, had been engineered by the Council to control him. You're lying, Lyra said, but her voice shook. Am I? Saris's smile widened. Why do you think I offered you a way out? Why do you think I told you to sign over your inheritance and walk away free? She turned to Kyle. Because the Council doesn't want her. They want you bound to her. They want you weakened by a mate bond you didn't choose. They want... Kale's fist connected with her face, and Saris dropped like a stone. The hall went silent. Kale stood over her unconscious form, his chest heaving, his hands clenched. Then he turned to look at Lyra. The expression on his face made her stomach drop. Is that what you think? He asked quietly. That I've been playing you? That everything I've done was manipulation? I don't know what to think. Yes, you do. He crossed the distance between them. You think everyone lies, everyone betrays, everyone uses you, and maybe they do. Maybe I do too. He stopped in front of her. But here's the difference. When I use you, when I ask you to help me or trust me or stand beside me, I tell you. I don't hide it behind pretty words or noble gestures. I'm honest about what I need. And what do you need? You. The word came out raw. Not your inheritance, not your bloodline, not whatever political advantage you represent, just you, exactly as you are. Lyra wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly it hurt. But Saris's words kept echoing. You were never the prize. You were the bait. I can't do this, she whispered. I can't. Then don't. Kale's voice went flat. Take Saris's offer. Walk away. Save yourself. That's not what I... What do you want, Lyra? The question came out sharp, angry. Because I've given you every choice, every option, and you're still looking for reasons to run. Because running is what keeps me alive. No, running is what keeps you alone. Kale's eyes bored into hers. And maybe that's safer. Maybe it hurts less, but it's not living. The truth of it cut deeper than any blade. Before Lyra could respond, a new voice echoed through the hall. How touching. Ronan emerged from the shadows, flanked by a dozen wolves. His face was bruised, his wrist still bandaged, but his smile was vicious. The Alpha King and his broken toy, he said. Did you really think you'd won? That you'd stopped me? Kale moved in front of Lyra. This is over, Ronan. Is it? Ronan gestured, and his wolves spread out surrounding them. Because from where I'm standing, you're outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and about to lose everything you've been fighting for. If you're going to kill me, get on with it. Kill you? No. Ronan's smile widened. I'm going to give you a choice. The same choice the Council gave you. Bond with the girl or watch her die. Lyra's breath caught. The full moon is tomorrow night, Ronan continued. You have until then to decide. Bond with her publicly, in front of the entire pack, and I'll let you both live. Refuse, and I'll gut her in front of you, slowly. The Council doesn't care. Ronan stepped closer. Saris was right about one thing. They wanted you weakened, and a mate bond, a forced mate bond, is the perfect weakness. Kale's hands clenched. You're insane. I'm practical. Ronan's eyes found Lyra, and I know she's been listening to every word, hearing how she's just a tool, a weapon, something to be used. He tilted his head. How does it feel, little liar, to know that even the man who promised to protect you sees you as leverage? Don't listen to him, Kael said. But the damage was done. Lyra could feel it, the doubt creeping in, the old instinct screaming at her to run, to hide, to disappear before someone else could use her and throw her away. 24 hours, Ronan said. Make your choice. He left, taking his wolves with him. The hall emptied slowly, wolves from both sides retreating to lick their wounds. Kael turned to Lyra. We need to talk, he said. There's nothing to talk about. Lyra, you heard him. We bond or I die. That's not a choice. Her voice was hollow. That's a cage with prettier bars. Then what do you want me to do? Kael's control was fraying. Walk away? Let you die? Because I won't. I can't. Why not? Because... He stopped, took a breath. Because you matter to me, more than this territory, more than my position, more than any political game the council wants to play. Prove it. The words came out before Lyra could stop them. Kael went very still. What? Prove it. She stepped closer. Show me you're not using me. Show me this isn't just about control or power or whatever the council wants. How? Let me go. The silence that followed was deafening. You want me to let you walk into Ronan's hands, Kael said slowly. Let you die. Just to prove I'm not manipulating you. Yes. No. Then you're lying, Lyra's voice cracked. You say you care about my freedom, but you won't give it to me. You say you want me to choose, but you've already decided what the right choice is. Because the right choice is staying alive. According to who? She was shouting now. You, the council, Ronan, everyone keeps telling me what I should do, what's best for me, what will keep me safe. But no one, not one person, has asked me what I actually want. Fine. Kael's voice went cold. What do you want? Lyra opened her mouth, closed it, because she didn't know. For 10 years she'd wanted to survive, to stay invisible, to make it to her 21st birthday and claim the inheritance her mother had died protecting. But now, standing here, she realized she'd never thought beyond that, never imagined what came after survival. I don't know, she whispered. Then figure it out. Kael turned to leave. Because the full moon is tomorrow night, and I'm not going to force you into a bond you don't want, even if it kills us both. He left. Lyra stood alone in the empty hall, her mind spinning. She had 24 hours to decide, bond with Kael and lose her freedom forever, or refuse and die. There had to be another option, had to be a way out. She just had to find it before the moon rose. Lyra spent the night in the archives. The old records were kept in the basement of the pack house, dusty, forgotten, organized by people who'd been dead for decades. But somewhere in these pages was information about her mother's death, about the inheritance, about the laws that governed mate bonds and territorial claims. She had to find something, anything. The hours blurred together. Lyra read until her eyes burned, until the words started to swim on the page. And then she found it. A clause buried in a document from 60 years ago. A loophole so obscure it had probably been forgotten by everyone except the lawyers who'd written it. A mate bond could be challenged, not by force, not by combat, but by truth. If either party in a forced bond could prove they were being coerced, if they could demonstrate that their consent was given under duress, the bond could be nullified. Lyra's hands shook as she read the passage again and again. This was it. This was the way out. If she bonded with Kael tomorrow night, but then immediately challenged it, proved that Ronan had threatened her life, that the council had manipulated them both, the bond could be broken. She'd keep her inheritance. Kael would keep his position, and they'd both walk away free. It was perfect. Except for one small problem. The challenge had to be filed within 24 hours of the bond, and it required testimony from both parties, which meant Lyra would have to convince Kael to lie, to stand in front of the council and claim he'd been coerced, that the bond was forced, that he didn't want it, even though she knew, somewhere deep in her chest where the truth lived, that he did. Lyra closed the book, her stomach churning. This was the choice her mother had warned her about, the moment where survival required sacrificing something she couldn't get back. She could save herself, save Kael, Save everything. But only if she was willing to destroy the one genuine connection she'd made in 10 years. The sun was rising when Lyra finally left the archives. She had 12 hours until the full moon, 12 hours to decide if freedom was worth the cost. What? She found Kyle in the training yard working through combat forms with mechanical precision. He didn't stop when she approached, but she knew he'd heard her. I found something, Lyra said, in the old records. A way to break a forced bond. Kale's movement slowed, stopped. He turned to face her, sweat dripping down his face. I'm listening. Lyra explained the loophole, the challenge, the testimony required. Kale listened without expression. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment, then, so your plan is to bond with me tonight, then immediately filed to break it. Yes. And you need me to testify that I was coerced, that I didn't want the bond. Yes. Even though that's a lie. Lyra's throat tightened. Is it? You know it is. Kale's voice was quiet, dangerous. You know exactly how I feel about you, and you're asking me to stand in front of the council and pretend otherwise. To save us both. To save yourself. The words hit like a slap. Because that's what this is really about, isn't it? You found a way to keep your freedom and your inheritance, and all it costs is my reputation and whatever trust we've built. That's not fair. Isn't it? Kyle stepped closer. You want me to bond with you, to tie my life to yours permanently. And then you want me to publicly claim it was forced. Do you have any idea what that would do to me, to my position, to every alliance I've built? I know it's not ideal. It's not ideal? His laugh was bitter. Lyra, if I testify that the bond was coerced, I'm admitting I can be manipulated, that I'm weak. Every enemy I have will see it as an opening. Every territory under my control will question my authority. But you'd be free. Free to what? Rule over people who think I'm a liar? Who think I forced a bond and then tried to weasel out of it? Kale's jaw tightened. I'd rather die. The words hung between them. So that's it? Lyra asked. You'd rather we both go through with a bond neither of us chose than admit the council manipulated us. I chose it. Kale's voice went soft, lethal. That's what you're not hearing. I chose you. I chose this. The council didn't manipulate me into protecting you. Ronan didn't force me to care. I did that all on my own. Because you're noble, because you have some savior complex. Because I love you. The world stopped. Lyra's breath caught, her heart slamming against her ribs. Kyle's expression didn't change. I love you, and I know you don't feel the same way. I know you see me as a tool, a protector, someone useful to have around. And I've made my peace with that. But don't ask me to lie about it. Don't ask me to stand in front of the council and pretend this bond means nothing to me. Lyra couldn't breathe, couldn't think. You don't mean that, she whispered. Yes, I do. He stepped closer, his hand cupping her face. I've meant it since the day I saw you standing against that wall, pretending to be something you're not. I've meant it every time you challenged me, every time you survived something that should have broken you, every time you looked at me like I was worth trusting. Tears burned in Lyra's eyes. I can't. I know. Kale's thumb brushed across her cheek. I know you can't say it back. I know you don't trust it, and that's okay. But don't ask me to lie about how I feel just so you can keep running. I'm not running. Yes, you are. His voice was gentle now, devastating. You're running right now. You found a loophole that would let you bond with me and then immediately break it. That's not freedom, Lyra. That's cowardice. The word hit like a fist. How dare you? I dare because someone needs to. Kale released her, stepping back. You've spent 10 years hiding, 10 years convincing yourself that being alone is the same as being safe. And now you have a choice, actually have a choice, to let someone in, to build something real. And you're so scared of it that you'd rather destroy it before it even begins. You don't understand. Then help me understand. His voice cracked. Tell me what you're so afraid of. I'm afraid of this. The words exploded out of her. I'm afraid of caring about someone and watching them die. I'm afraid of trusting someone and having them betray me. I'm afraid of being vulnerable and having someone use it to destroy me. So you'd rather be alone forever? Yes. Lyra was crying now, Yes, because alone is survivable. Alone doesn't hurt. Alone doesn't, oh, alone is killing you. Kale's voice went quiet. Look at yourself, Lyra. You're 20 years old and you've already decided that surviving is all you're worth, that anything more than that is too dangerous to risk. Because it is. No, it's not. He moved closer, his hands on her shoulders. Yes, people die. Yes, people betray. Yes, loving someone gives them the power to hurt you, but it also gives you something to live for beyond just making it to tomorrow. Lyra shook her head, the tears streaming down her face. I can't do this, she whispered. I can't be what you need. I'm not asking you to be anything except honest. Kael's forehead pressed against hers. If you don't want the bond, tell me. If you don't feel the same way I do, tell me. But don't hide behind loopholes and plans. Don't lie to me and call it protection. The truth sat in Lyra's throat, heavy and terrifying. Because he was right. She was running. She was hiding. She was so scared of being hurt that she was willing to destroy the first real thing she'd had in 10 years. But the alternative, letting him in, trusting him, bonding with him for real, felt like stepping off a cliff with no guarantee she'd survive the fall. I need time, she said. You have 6 hours. Kael pulled back. The full moon rises at midnight. Either we bond or Ronan kills you. Those are the options. There has to be another way. There isn't. His voice was flat. So make your choice, Lyra. Bond with me because you want to. Or refuse, and I'll find a way to get you out of here before Ronan can touch you. He'll kill you. Probably. Kael, make your choice. He turned to leave. I'll be in the main hall at midnight. If you're there, I'll know your answer. He left her standing in the training yard, her heart in pieces. Lyra sank to the ground, her hands shaking. 6 hours. She had 6 hours to decide between freedom and connection, between surviving alone or risking everything for something she didn't even know how to name. The sun climbed higher, and Lyra stayed where she was, trapped between the person she'd been and the person she was terrified to become. She was still sitting there when Ceres found her. You look terrible, the woman said, her face bruised from where Kael had hit her. Lyra didn't look up. Go away. In a moment. Ceres sat down beside her. First, I want to apologize. That got Lyra's attention. What? I lied to you about the council's plans, about Kael using you. Ceres's voice was softer now. The truth is, they sent me here to break you two apart, to make sure the bond didn't happen. Lyra's stomach dropped. Why? Because a bonded Alpha King is unpredictable, harder to control. The council wanted Kael isolated, alone, easy to manipulate. Ceres looked at her. And I was supposed to make sure you never trusted him enough to take the risk. So everything you said was designed to make you doubt him, to make you think he was using you. Ceres's smile was sad. And it worked, because you wanted to believe it. You wanted an excuse to run. The words cut deep. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm tired of being their weapon. Ceres stood. And because I think you deserve to know the truth before you make your choice. What truth? That Kael Draven is exactly what he appears to be. Honorable, stubborn, willing to die for someone he cares about. Ceres turned to leave. The question is whether you're brave enough to let him. She walked away, leaving Lyra alone with the truth. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Lyra stood slowly, her decision crystallizing. She was done running, done hiding, done letting fear make her choices. If she was going to die tonight, it would be standing in the light. And if she was going to live, she was going to do it on her own terms, with her eyes wide open and her heart finally willing to. She was going to do it on her own terms, with her eyes wide open and her heart finally willing to risk the fall. The full moon was rising. Lyra could see it through the window as she dressed, a massive silver disk that seemed to pull at something deep in her chest. The bond would happen under that moon, or her death would. Either way, tonight everything changed. She'd chosen her clothes carefully. Not the servant rags she'd worn for 10 years. Not the fine dresses Kael's people had given her. Something in between. Simple. Clean. Hers. Her hand shook as she tied her hair back. She was terrified. But she was done letting terror make her choices. The walk to the main hall felt like a march to execution. Every step echoed in the empty corridors. Every breath felt too loud. The hall was packed when she arrived. Every wolf in Silverfang had turned out for this. They lined the walls, filled the galleries, crowded into every available space. The air thrummed with anticipation and bloodlust. At the center of it all stood Kael. He was dressed in formal ceremonial clothes, dark leather and silver clasps that marked him as Alpha King. His face was unreadable, but his eyes tracked her movement the moment she entered. Ronan stood opposite him, flanked by his remaining loyal wolves. His smile was vicious. "She came," he said. "I wasn't sure she would." Lyra ignored him, crossing the hall to stand beside Kael. "You're here," Kael said quietly. "I'm here. Does that mean—" "It means I made my choice." Lyra met his eyes. "Ask me again. What you asked me in the training yard." Kael's jaw tightened. "Lyra, ask me." He took a breath. "Do you want this bond? Not because Ronan threatened you, not because the council manipulated us, not because it's the smart choice or the safe choice. Do you want it?" The entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Lyra thought about her mother's warning, about 10 years of hiding, about every instinct screaming at her to lie, to protect herself, to survive. Then she thought about Kael breaking down a door to find her, about the way he'd looked at her like she mattered, about 3 words he'd said that had cracked her open. "I love you." "Yes," she said. "I want it." The hall erupted. Wolves howled, some in celebration, some in fury. Ronan's face went white with rage. "You stupid—" "Shut up!" Kael's voice cut through the noise like a blade. He turned to face the crowd. "Lyra Vane has agreed to bond with me, freely, publicly, witnessed by this pack." His eyes found Ronan. "Do you challenge this?" "Damn right I challenge it." Ronan stepped forward. "She's mine by right. Her inheritance isn't yours, has never been yours, will never be yours." Kael's voice dropped lower. "So I'll ask you again. Do you challenge my claim?" "I do." "Then let's settle this the old way." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Ronan smiled slowly. "Combat?" "Combat." Kael stripped off his ceremonial jacket, tossing it aside. "You and me. No weapons, no interference. Winner takes everything." "Kael, no." Lyra grabbed his arm. "He's going to—" "I know." Kael looked down at her, his expression gentle. "But this is the only way to end it, to make sure you're safe. You could die. Then you'll walk out of here free." He cupped her face. "Either way, you win." "That's not winning." "It is to me." He leaned down, pressing his forehead to hers. "Trust me. One more time. Please." Lyra's throat closed up. She nodded. Kael stepped back, turning to face Ronan. The crowd formed a circle, pressing in close. The energy in the room shifted, became primal, electric. This was what they'd come for. Blood, violence, a challenge witnessed under the full moon. "Rules are simple," Ronan said, rolling his shoulders. "No killing strikes. Fight until one of us submits or can't continue." His smile widened. "Of course, accidents happen." "They do," Kael agreed. They circled each other. Ronan struck first, fast and brutal, his fist aimed at Kael's throat. Kael dodged, countering with a strike to Ronan's ribs that made the other man grunt. The fight was vicious from the start. No posturing, no testing, just 2 predators trying to tear each other apart. Ronan was strong, stronger than Lyra had realized. He landed a blow that sent Kael staggering, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. But Kael was faster. He moved like water, like violence made fluid. Every strike was precise, calculated, designed to disable rather than showboat. They crashed into each other again and again, the sound of flesh hitting flesh echoing through the hall. Lyra couldn't breathe, couldn't look away. Kael was winning, slowly, methodically. And then Ronan cheated. He shifted, partially, just his claws, and raked them across Kael's chest. The crowd gasped. Kael stumbled back, blood pouring from the wounds. "Foul!" someone shouted. But Ronan just smiled. "Prove it." Kael's eyes went cold. He shifted too, fully this time, his wolf form massive and silver gray. The transformation was instantaneous, brutal, and absolutely lethal. Ronan barely had time to shift before Kael was on him. The fight became savage. Two wolves tearing at each other, teeth and claws and raw animal fury. The crowd was screaming now, wolves on both sides howling their support. Lyra watched in horror as Kael took Ronan down, his jaws closing around the other wolf's throat. One squeeze. That's all it would take. But Kael didn't squeeze. He held Ronan there, the message clear. Submit. Ronan struggled, snarled, refused. Kael's jaws tightened, blood welled up, and finally, Ronan went limp. Submission. Kael released him, stepping back. He shifted back to human form, standing over Ronan's prone wolf body. It's over, he said, his voice carrying through the hall. Ronan Voss has submitted. The challenge is mine. The hall erupted in howls. Ronan shifted back slowly, his throat bleeding, his face a mask of hatred. This isn't over, he whispered. Yes, Kael said. It is. He turned back to Lyra, blood streaming down his chest, his breathing labored. Still want that bond? He asked. Lyra's laugh came out half sob. You're insane. Probably. He held out his hand. But you already knew that. She took it. The ceremony was supposed to be formal, ritualistic, full of ancient words and symbolic gestures. But Kael cut through all of it. He pulled Lyra close, his hand cupping the back of her neck, and spoke directly to her. I claim you, he said, not because of your inheritance, not because the council wants me weakened, not because Ronan threatened your life. His eyes bored into hers. I claim you because you're the bravest person I've ever met, because you survived 10 years in hell and came out stronger, because you make me want to be better than I am. Lyra's eyes burned with tears. I claim you, she said, her voice shaking, not because you saved me, not because you're powerful or honorable or any of the things people say about you. She took a breath. I claim you because you saw me when I was invisible, because you asked me what I wanted instead of telling me, because you loved me before I knew how to love myself. The bond snapped into place. It felt like lightning, white-hot and overwhelming and absolutely right. Lyra gasped, her knees buckling. Kael caught her, holding her up as the connection flooded through them both. She could feel him now, his emotions, his thoughts, the bone-deep certainty that she was his and he was hers, and nothing would ever change that. It was terrifying. It was perfect. Kael kissed her in front of the entire pack, and Lyra kissed him back with everything she had. When they finally broke apart, the hall was silent. Then someone started howling. The sound spread, building until every wolf in the room was howling at the full moon. The bond was sealed. Lyra Vane was no longer alone. Book. They didn't make it to Kael's quarters before the attack came. Lyra felt it through the bond first. A spike of warning, of danger, of get down now. She dropped to the floor as arrows whistled through the air where her head had been. Kael shifted instantly, his wolf form placing itself between her and the threat. Ambush! Someone shouted. The hall descended into chaos. Wolves. Lyra didn't recognize poured in from every entrance, at least 40 of them, all wearing the insignia of the Eastern Territories, the Council's forces. They're not here for a visit, Kael snarled, shifting back to human. They're here to kill us. Why? Because we just became too dangerous to control. He grabbed her hand. Run, now. I'm not leaving you. Lyra? I said I'm not leaving you. She grabbed the ceremonial knife from the altar, her hand steady. We fight together, or we die together. Your choice. Kael's expression shifted, pride and fear and love all mixed together. Together, he said. They fought side by side. Kael was a force of nature, claws and teeth and brutal efficiency. But Lyra surprised herself. 10 years of watching fights, of studying movement, of learning how to survive by observing, it all came flooding back. She wasn't strong, but she was fast. And she was vicious. She took down 2 wolves before the real threat appeared. Ceres stepped into the hall, flanked by a dozen guards. But something was wrong. Her eyes were glazed, her movements mechanical. She's being controlled, Kael said, blocking a strike aimed at his throat. Someone's using her gift against her. Who? A new figure emerged from the shadows, tall, ancient, wearing the robes of a council elder. Me, the man said. Lyra's blood went cold. She recognized him from her mother's journals. Marcus Thorne, the council's executioner. You should have taken the deal, Marcus said, his voice smooth. Signed over the inheritance. Walked away. But you had to be difficult. What do you want? Kyle demanded. What I've always wanted. Control. Marcus gestured, and Ceres moved forward like a puppet. The council doesn't tolerate threats, and an Alpha King with a mate bond is the biggest threat there is. So you're here to kill us. I'm here to give you one last chance. Marcus's smile was cold. Dissolve the bond, publicly. Claim it was forced, and I'll let you both live. No, Lyra said. No? Marcus looked amused. You'd rather die than admit a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. Lyra stepped forward, the knife still in her hand. And I'm done letting people like you tell me what my life is worth. Brave words from a girl who's been hiding for 10 years. I wasn't hiding. Lyra's voice went hard. I was surviving. There's a difference. Is there? Marcus gestured again, and Ceres lunged. Kyle caught her, twisting her arm behind her back. Don't make me hurt you. She can't hear you, Marcus said. She's mine now, just like this territory will be, just like everything you've tried to protect. Lyra felt the bond flare, Kyle's rage mixing with her own. They were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, but they weren't done. Kyle, Lyra said quietly, remember what you told me about how physical strength isn't the only kind that matters? His eyes met hers through the chaos. Yeah. I have an idea, but you have to trust me. Always. Lyra turned to face Marcus. You want control? Fine. Let's make a deal. The fighting slowed, stopped. Marcus raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. Single combat. Me versus Ceres. Lyra's voice was steady. If I win, you release her from your control and leave Silverfang. If she wins, we dissolve the bond. Lyra, no, Kyle said, but Marcus was smiling. Interesting, but why would I agree when I can just kill you both now? Because you can't. Lyra met his eyes. Kill an Alpha King and his bonded mate on their claiming night? The Council would lose every ally they have. Every territory would revolt. You'd start a war you can't win. Marcus's smile faded. But a formal challenge, Lyra continued. Witnessed by everyone here. That's legitimate. That's legal. And when Ceres kills me, because let's face it, she's a trained warrior and I'm just a servant, you get exactly what you want. The bond breaks, Kyle is weakened, and the Council maintains control. The logic was sound. Marcus knew it. One condition, he said. Kyle doesn't interfere, no matter what happens. Lyra felt the bond flare with protest. Agreed, she said before Kyle could argue. Lyra, trust me, she whispered. Marcus gestured, and his forces pulled back, forming a circle. Ceres stepped into the center, her movements still mechanical, her eyes still empty. Lyra followed, the ceremonial knife feeling impossibly small in her hand. This is insane, Kyle said through the bond. She'll kill you. Maybe, Lyra kept her eyes on Ceres. Or maybe I know something you don't. Like what? Like how to wake someone up. Before Kale could respond, Ceres attacked. She was fast, impossibly fast. Her fist connected with Lyra's stomach, driving the air from her lungs. Lyra went down hard. The crowd roared. Get up, Kyle's voice through the bond. Please, get up! Lyra pushed herself to her feet, tasting blood. Ceres came at her again. This time Lyra didn't try to fight. She dropped the knife, and she spoke. Your name is Ceres Vale, she said. You were sent here by the Council to manipulate us. But you told me the truth in the training yard. You said you were tired of being their weapon. Ceres hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. You have a gift, Lyra continued, circling slowly. You can feel emotions, bend them, change them. But that means you can feel mine right now. Can feel that I'm not afraid of you. Lyra, what are you doing? Kyle asked. Gambling, Saris struck again, but slower now, uncertain. I know what it's like, Lyra said, to be controlled. To have someone else decide what your life is worth. To be nothing but a tool. She met Saris's glazed eyes. But you're more than that. You told me so yourself. Stop talking, Marcus commanded. Lyra ignored him. You apologized to me. You warned me. You tried to help me make the right choice. That wasn't the council. That was you. Saris stopped moving entirely. The glaze in her eyes flickered. Fight her, Marcus snarled. But Saris's hands were shaking now. You said you were tired of being their weapon, Lyra said softly. So stop, right now. Choose to stop. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Saris blinked. The glaze cleared from her eyes, and she turned to face Marcus. No, she said. The word echoed through the hall. Marcus's face went white. You can't. I just did. Saris's voice was her own again. And if you try to control me again, I'll rip your mind apart from the inside. Marcus took a step back. Saris turned to Lyra. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Lyra said. We're still outnumbered 40-1. Actually, a new voice said, you're not. Lyra turned to see wolves pouring into the hall. Silverfang wolves, but also others she didn't recognize. Dozens of them, all wearing different territorial insignias. And at the front of them stood a woman Lyra had only seen in portraits. Her aunt, her mother's sister. The heir everyone thought had died 20 years ago. Hello, niece, the woman said. Sorry I'm late? The hall fell into shocked silence. Marcus's forces looked at each other, uncertainty spreading. Arya Vane, Marcus said slowly. You're dead. Funny, Arya smiled. I was thinking the same thing about you. She moved with liquid grace, positioning herself beside Lyra. The Vane bloodline doesn't submit to the council. My sister knew that. That's why they killed her. Her eyes found Marcus. And that's why I've spent 20 years building alliances, gathering forces, waiting for the right moment to strike. This is treason, Marcus hissed. No, Arya's voice went hard. This is justice. The wolves she'd brought spread out surrounding Marcus's forces. The numbers were even now, maybe even in their favor. Last chance, Kyle said, his voice carrying through the hall. Leave Silverfang, leave us alone, and you get to walk out of here alive. Marcus's hand went to his weapon. Wrong choice, Arya said. The hall exploded into violence. It was chaos, teeth and claws and blood everywhere. Lyra lost track of the individual fights, lost track of everything except staying alive and keeping Kyle in her sight. The bond thrummed between them, keeping them connected even in the madness. She saw Arya take down 3 council wolves with brutal efficiency. Saw Saris turn her gift on Marcus's forces, making them fight each other instead of the allied wolves. Saw Kyle at the center of it all, a silver-gray wolf tearing through anyone who got too close to Lyra. And then she saw Marcus. He was retreating toward the exit, trying to escape in the chaos. Lyra didn't think. She grabbed the ceremonial knife and ran. Marcus saw her coming and smiled. Foolish girl. He drew his blade, longer, sharper, designed to kill. They clashed in the doorway. Lyra was outmatched, outclassed, out of her depth, but she'd spent 10 years learning to survive against impossible odds. She ducked under his first strike, using his momentum against him. Her knife found his side. Not deep enough to kill, but deep enough to hurt. Marcus snarled, his backhand catching her across the face. Lyra went down, her vision blurring. Marcus stood over her, his blade raised. You should have taken the deal, he said. Lyra smiled through the blood. You should have brought more wolves. Kyle hit Marcus from behind like an avalanche. The two of them went down in a tangle of limbs and fury. It was over in seconds. Kale's jaws closed around Marcus's throat, and this time he didn't hesitate. The crunch of bone was loud in the sudden silence. Marcus went limp. The council's executioner was dead. Kale shifted back, covered in blood, his chest heaving. He crossed to Lyra, pulling her into his arms. Are you hurt? I'm fine. She was shaking. Is it over? Look around. Lyra did. The hall was littered with bodies, most of them council wolves. The survivors were on their knees, surrounded, defeated. It was over. They'd won. Arya approached, wiping blood from her blade. Well fought, niece. You're really my aunt? I really am, Arya smiled. And we have a lot to talk about. But first, she turned to address the crowd. By right of blood and by right of combat, I claim leadership of the Vayne bloodline, and I name Lyra Vayne as my heir. The words settled over the hall. Lyra felt the weight of them, the inheritance her mother had died protecting, finally hers. But more than that, Arya continued, I claim alliance with Chael Draven, Alpha King of the Northern Territories. What was done to my sister will not stand. The council has overstepped for the last time. Howls of agreement rose from the crowd. Chael pulled Lyra closer, the bond singing between them. We just started a revolution, he murmured. I know, Lyra said. Are you scared? She thought about it, about everything that had led to this moment, about 10 years of hiding that had brought her here, standing in the light, bonded to someone who loved her, surrounded by wolves who'd fought for her. No, she said. I'm not scared anymore. Chael kissed her, and the crowd erupted in howls again. But even as they celebrated, even as the victory settled over them, Lyra felt something shift. The bond flickered, just for a second, and through it she felt Chael's pain spike. She pulled back, looking at him. His face had gone pale, his hand pressed to his chest where Ronan had clawed him earlier. Chael? I'm fine, he said, but his voice was strained. No, you're not. Chael... He collapsed. Lyra caught him, or tried to, but his weight dragged them both down. Healer, she screamed. Someone get a healer! Arya was there in an instant, helping her lower Chael to the ground. What happened? Arya demanded. I don't know, he was fine, and then... Lyra's hands came away from his chest, covered in blood. Too much blood. Oh God, the wounds, they're not healing. Poison, Arya said grimly. Ronan must have coated his claws. Can you fix it? I don't know. We need... Chael's hand found Lyra's, gripping tight. Listen to me, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The bond. It's new, fragile. If I die before it's fully established, you're not going to die. Lyra, you're not going to die. She was crying now, the tears streaming down her face. You don't get to tell me you love me and then leave. You don't get to make me choose you and then take it back. You don't... I'm not taking anything back. His hand cupped her face. But you need to know. If I die, the bond breaks. You'll be free. I don't want to be free. I want you. I know. His smile was weak. But sometimes we don't get what we want. No. Lyra's voice went hard. No. I spent 10 years accepting what I couldn't change. I'm done with that. You're going to survive this. Do you hear me? You're going to... The bond flared, bright and hot and absolutely certain. And through it, Lyra felt something shift. She could feel Chael's pain, could feel the poison spreading through his veins. But she could also feel the bond itself, raw and new and desperate to establish itself fully. It needed an anchor. It needed both of them conscious and fighting. Stay with me, Lyra said, pressing her forehead to his. Stay with me and fight. I can't do this alone. You're not alone, Chael whispered. You never were. His eyes started to close, and Lyra made a choice. She grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. I love you, she said. I love you, you stubborn, honorable, impossible man. And you are not allowed to leave me. Not now. Not when I finally figured out how to say it. Chael's eyes widened. The bond exploded. It wasn't gentle this time. It was fire and lightning and every emotion they'd been holding back crashing together. Lyra felt it slam into her. Chael's love, his fear, his desperate need to protect her mixing with her own terror and hope and the bone-deep certainty that she couldn't survive losing him. The bond latched on to that certainty, used it, grew. And suddenly, Lyra could feel the poison, could feel it trying to kill him. So she grabbed it through the bond and pulled. The pain was excruciating. It felt like fire in her veins, like ice in her lungs, like every nerve ending was being flayed. But she held on, pulled harder, took as much of the poison into herself as the bond would allow. Chael gasped, his color returning slightly. What are you doing? He demanded. Saving you. Lyra's voice was strained. The bond. It connects us. So if we share the poison, you'll die too, or we'll both survive. She met his eyes. Together. Remember? Kael's hand found hers again, and together they fought. The bond burned between them, connecting them, keeping them anchored to each other and to life itself. Lyra didn't know how long it lasted. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. All she knew was pain and Kael's hand in hers and the absolute refusal to let go. When she finally opened her eyes, the hall was quiet. The healer was there, along with Arya, and what looked like half the pack. Is he... Lyra couldn't finish the question. Alive, Arya said. You're both alive, though I have no idea how. The bond, the healer said, wonder in her voice. She used the mate bond to share the poison, diluted it enough that both of them could survive. She shook her head. I've never seen anything like it. Lyra looked down at Kael. His eyes were open, watching her. That was stupid, he said. Probably. You could have died. So could you. Lyra's fingers threaded through his. I wasn't going to let that happen. Stubborn. You're one to talk. He smiled. Actually smiled. And through the bond, Lyra felt his love wrap around her like armor. They'd survived. Both of them. Against the council, against Ronan, against poison and politics and every force trying to tear them apart. Kael sat up slowly, wincing. How bad is it out there? The council forces retreated, Arya said. The ones who survived, anyway. Marcus's death has thrown them into chaos. They won't recover quickly. Good. Kael stood, pulling Lyra up with him. Then we have time. Time for what? To build something better. He looked around the hall at the assembled wolves. Silverfang, Northern Territories, and a dozen other packs who'd come to fight. The council's had control for too long. It's time for that to change. Howls of agreement rose up. Arya stepped forward. The Vayne bloodline stands with you, whatever comes next. Other voices joined in, other packs pledging support. Lyra stood beside Kael, the bond singing between them, and realized what they'd started. Not just a revolution, a war, but looking at the wolves around her, at Arya, at Ceres who'd broken free of control, at the packs who'd chosen to fight. She didn't feel afraid. She felt ready. The full moon was setting now, painting the sky in shades of gray and blue. And as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, Lyra Vayne, once invisible, once nothing, once the girl who'd survived by disappearing, stood in the center of the hall, bonded, claimed, seen, and absolutely unwilling to hide ever again. The dawn came slowly, bleeding gold and crimson across the horizon, like the territory itself was being reborn. Lyra stood at the window of Kael's quarters, their quarters now, watching the sun climb. Her body ached everywhere. Bruises mottled her skin in shades of purple and green. Her ribs protested every breath. But she was alive, they both were. Behind her she heard Kael moving. The bond hummed between them, no longer raw and new, but settling into something deeper, permanent. She could feel his pain, physical and otherwise, mixing with relief and something that felt like wonder. You should be resting, he said. So should you. I asked first. Lyra turned to find him sitting on the edge of the bed, shirtless, his chest wrapped in bandages that were already showing spots of blood. The poison had left its mark, scars that would never fully fade, proof that they'd survived what should have killed them. How long were we out? She asked. 2 days. Kael's voice was rough. Arya's been running things. Ceres helped coordinate with the other packs. They've been waiting for us to wake up. And Ronan? Gone! Kael's jaw tightened. He disappeared during the fight with the council forces. No one's seen him since. Lyra's stomach dropped. He's still out there. Yes. He'll come back. Probably. Kael stood slowly, crossing to her. But not today. Today, we deal with what's in front of us. He was right. There were bodies to bury, alliances to formalize, a territory to rebuild, and questions that needed answering. My aunt, Lyra said. Arya. She said she's been building alliances for 20 years. That means she knew. She knew the council killed my mother, and she didn't what? Come save you? Kale's hand found hers. She was building an army, Lyra. Building the only thing that could actually protect you in the long run. She could have told me. Could have what? Put a target on your back even bigger than the one you already had? His thumb brushed across her knuckles. Sometimes the people who love us make choices we don't understand. Doesn't mean they were wrong. The words settled over her, uncomfortable and true. There was a knock at the door. "Come in," Kale said. Arya entered, looking exactly like the portraits Lyra had seen, sharp-featured, silver-haired, with eyes that had seen too much. She carried herself like someone who'd spent 2 decades preparing for war. "You're awake," Arya said. "Good. We have a lot to discuss." "You're my mother's sister," Lyra said. It wasn't a question. "I am." "And you let me think you were dead for 20 years. "I did." Arya's expression didn't change. "Because the council thought I was dead too, and that gave me the freedom to build something they couldn't see coming. An army. A coalition." Arya moved to the window, looking out over the territory. "Your mother and I, we knew the council was corrupt. We knew they were killing anyone who challenged them. But we were young, naive. We thought we could change things from the inside." "What happened?" "They killed her." The words came out flat. "Poisoned her slowly over months until everyone thought it was a wasting disease. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late." Arya's hands clenched. "So I faked my own death, went underground, and I've spent every day since then building alliances with packs who were tired of council control." Lyra felt the bond flare with Kael's emotions, understanding mixed with respect. "Why didn't you come for me?" Lyra asked. "All those years. I was right here, suffering, hiding. Because if I'd come for you, they would have known I was alive, and everything I'd built would have collapsed." Arya turned to face her. "I made a choice, niece, a terrible one. I let you suffer so that one day you could be free, really free, not just safe but powerful. That's not a justification." "No, it's not." Arya's voice softened. "It's just the truth. And I won't apologize for it because we both know I'd make the same choice again." The honesty was brutal, and somehow it made Lyra respect her more. "What happens now?" Lyra asked. "Now we consolidate." Arya pulled out a map, spreading it across the table. 15 packs have pledged to our coalition. Another 20 are considering it. The council's forces are scattered, their leadership dead or in hiding. "They'll regroup," Kale said. "Of course they will. But it'll take time. And in that time, we build something they can't tear down." Arya looked at them both. "A new council. One that's actually accountable to the territories it governs." "That's a war," Lyra said. "We're already at war. We just fired the first shot." Arya's smile was sharp. "The question is whether you're ready to fight it." Lyra looked at Kael. Through the bond, she felt his certainty, his willingness to burn the world down if that's what it took. "I'm ready," Lyra said. The next week was a blur of meetings and strategy sessions and difficult conversations. Packs arrived from all over the northern territories, their leaders wanting to see the girl who'd supposedly started a revolution. Lyra found herself thrust into politics she didn't understand, alliances she couldn't quite parse, and a level of scrutiny that made her old invisibility seem like a blessing. But Kael was there, always. When a pack leader questioned her authority, Kael shut it down. When someone suggested she was too inexperienced, too young, too damaged by years of hiding, Kael made it clear that questioning her was questioning him. The bond made them a unit, inseparable. It also made them vulnerable. "You need to be careful," Sarah said one evening. She'd been staying in Silverfang, helping coordinate the coalition's communication efforts. "A bonded pair is powerful, but it's also a weakness. If someone takes one of you, they control both of you." "I know," Lyra said. They were in the war room, surrounded by maps and reports. Kael was with Arya, meeting with pack leaders from the Western Territories. Sarah studied her. "You're different than you were a week ago." "I got bonded and almost died. That changes a person." "It's more than that." Sarah tilted her head. "You're not performing anymore, not hiding. You're just you." The observation hit deeper than Lyra expected. "I spent 10 years being invisible," she said quietly. "I got very good at it. Sometimes I forget I don't have to anymore." "Do you miss it? The hiding?" Lyra thought about it. about the safety of corners and shadows, about the simplicity of having no one look at her, no one expect anything, no one need anything. "No," she said, "I miss feeling safe. But hiding never made me safe. It just made me alone. And now? Now I'm terrified every second of every day." Lyra's laugh was hollow. "But at least I'm terrified with people who give a damn whether I survive." Sarah smiled. "That's as close to happiness as people like us get." The door opened and Kyle entered, his expression grim. "We have a problem," he said. Lyra's stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "The kind with 30 wolves and Ronan at the head of them, betrayal." They'd fortified the southern border, but Ronan knew the territory too well. He'd found a weak point, an old smuggler's route that most people had forgotten existed. By the time the sentries realized what was happening, Ronan's forces were inside Silverfang. The alarm bells rang just after midnight. Lyra woke to the sound of them, the bond already screaming warning. Kyle was up and armed in seconds. "Stay here," he said. "Like hell." "Lyra, we're bonded. That means we fight together." She grabbed the knife she'd taken to keeping under her pillow. "You don't get to protect me anymore. You get to fight beside me." Kyle's expression shifted, frustration giving way to pride. "Together," he said. "Together." They met the attack in the courtyard. Ronan had brought his most loyal wolves, the ones who'd followed him into exile, who'd rather die than submit to the new order. They fought with the desperation of people who had nothing left to lose. The battle was vicious. Lyra stayed close to Kyle, their movements synchronized through the bond. She wasn't as strong as the others, wasn't as fast, but she was smart. She knew how to use terrain, how to anticipate movement, how to survive, and she was done being prey. She took down 2 wolves before she saw Ronan. He was fighting his way toward Kyle, his face twisted with rage and something that looked like madness. "This ends tonight," Ronan roared. "One way or another." Kyle met him head on, and they crashed together like mountains colliding. It was brutal. More savage than the formal challenge had been. No rules now. No witnesses to hold them accountable. Just 2 predators trying to kill each other. Lyra watched in horror as they tore chunks out of each other, blood spraying across the stone. And then she saw it. Ronan had a blade. Hidden. Poisoned, probably, just like his claws had been. He was waiting for an opening, waiting to end this the way he'd almost ended it before. Lyra didn't think. She ran, threw herself between them just as Ronan's blade came up. The steel caught her in the side, sliding between ribs with a wet, terrible sound. Pain exploded through her. Through the bond, she felt Kyle's scream, anguish and rage and absolute terror. She hit the ground hard, blood pouring from the wound. Above her, Kyle transformed, not into his wolf, into something worse, pure violence, pure fury, the kind of rage that came from watching the person you loved bleeding out in front of you. He tore into Ronan like he was made of paper. There was no mercy, no hesitation, just claws and teeth and the absolute destruction of everything Ronan had ever been. When it was over, when Ronan's body lay in pieces across the courtyard, Kyle shifted back and dropped to his knees beside Lyra. "No, no, no, no." His hands pressed against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "Don't you dare! Don't you dare leave me!" "Not planning on it," Lyra gasped. The pain was excruciating. "But this really hurts." "Healer!" Kyle screamed. "Someone get the fucking healer!" Footsteps. Voices. Hands pulling Kyle away so they could work. Through the bond, Lyra felt his terror, his love, his desperate clawing need for her to survive. She held on to that feeling, used it as an anchor. And she fought. Bum. She woke 3 days later. The room was dim, curtains drawn against the sunlight. Kyle was asleep in the chair beside her bed, his hand wrapped around hers, his face haggard with exhaustion and worry. Through the bond, she felt the moment he sensed her consciousness returning. His eyes snapped open. "Lyra!" "Hey," she said. Her voice came out rough, barely above a whisper. Kyle was on his feet instantly, his hands cupping her face. "You're awake. Thank God you're awake." "How long?" 3 days. The blade punctured a lung. "You lost so much blood." His voice cracked. "I thought I was going to lose you." "You didn't. You jumped in front of a poisoned blade for me." "Yeah." That was the stupidest thing you've ever done. Probably, Lyra managed a weak smile. But you'd have done the same for me. That's different. How? Because He stopped, took a breath. Because losing you would destroy me. Completely. And I can't survive that again. The vulnerability in his voice broke something open in her chest. Again? She asked quietly. Cale was silent for a long moment. Then, I had a mate. Before you. A long time ago. The words came out slow, painful. She was killed by the council. They made it look like an accident, but I knew, and I swore I'd never bond with anyone again. Never give them that kind of leverage over me. Lyra's chest tightened. But you bonded with me, because you made me want to try. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. You made me believe that maybe some things are worth the risk, worth the pain. And now? Now I know I was right. His forehead pressed against hers. Because even with the terror and the blood and the almost losing you, I'd still choose this. I'd still choose you every single time. Tears burned in Lyra's eyes. Love you, she whispered. I know. Cale's smile was soft. You told me. Right before you saved my life by doing something completely insane. I had to. The bond is the excuse you used. The truth is, you would have done it anyway. His eyes held hers. Because that's who you are. Someone who fights for the people she cares about. Someone who refuses to let the people she loves die alone. The words settled over her like truth. Maybe he was right. Maybe hiding had never been about safety. Maybe it had been about not having anyone worth fighting for. Ronan? She asked. Dead. Kael's voice went flat. Very dead. I made sure of it. Good. The territory is secure. Arya's been running things while we recovered. The coalition is holding. He paused. We won, Lyra. Actually won. She should feel relieved, triumphant. But all she felt was tired. What happens now? She asked. Now, we rebuild. Kael helped her sit up slowly, carefully. The council's broken. We have a chance to create something better, something that doesn't rely on fear and manipulation. That's going to take years. Probably. And there will be resistance, people who want the old ways back. Definitely. So we're signing up for a lifetime of fighting. Looks like it. Kael's smile was wry. Still want to be bonded to me? Lyra thought about it. About everything that had led her here. About 10 years of hiding that had culminated in 3 weeks of absolute chaos. About a bond she'd been terrified to accept that had saved both their lives more than once. Yeah, she said, I do. The relief in Kael's expression made her chest ache. Good, he said, because I wasn't planning on letting you go anyway. What? The next month was recovery and rebuilding. Lyra's wound healed slowly, the poison leaving scars that matched Kael's. They wore them like badges, proof they'd survived what should have killed them. The coalition grew stronger. More packs joined. The old council's power fractured completely when 3 more elders were found dead, killed by their own people who were tired of the corruption. Arya took charge of organizing the new governing structure. She was ruthless and brilliant and everything Lyra's mother must have been before the council broke her. Cerys stayed on as an advisor, her gift invaluable for reading the intentions of visiting pack leaders and sniffing out potential betrayals. And Lyra learned how to be seen. It wasn't easy. There were days when she wanted to hide in corners, days when the scrutiny felt like too much, days when she missed the simplicity of being invisible. But Kael was there, always, reminding her that she was worth the attention, that her voice mattered, that she'd earned her place not through bloodline or inheritance, but through survival and courage and the willingness to fight. 6 weeks after the final battle, they held a formal ceremony. Not a bonding, that was already done, but a claiming. Every pack in the coalition sent representatives. The hall was packed, the energy electric. Arya stood at the center, commanding attention without effort. 10 years ago, she said, her voice carrying through the space, my sister was murdered by a council that valued power over justice. She left behind a daughter, a girl who should have been protected, celebrated, given everything her bloodline entitled her to. The crowd was silent. Instead, that girl was forced to hide, to pretend to be something she wasn't, to survive in a world that saw her as nothing. Arya's eyes found Lyra. But she didn't just survive. She learned. She watched. She became someone the council couldn't control. Lyra felt the weight of every gaze in the room. Lyra Vane, Arya continued, by right of blood and by right of survival, I name you heir to the Vane legacy. Everything your mother protected, everything I've built, it's yours. Lyra stepped forward, her legs shaking. Arya held out her hand. In it was a ring, silver and obsidian, ancient, worn smooth by generations of Vane women who'd fought for their place in a world that tried to erase them. Do you accept? Arya asked. Lyra looked at the ring, then at Kael, standing beside her, the bond humming between them. Then at the crowd, wolves from a dozen territories, all watching, all waiting to see what she'd do. She thought about her mother's last words. They only claim what they can see. For 10 years, Lyra had taken that as instruction to hide, but maybe her mother had meant something else. Maybe she'd meant that visibility was a choice, that being seen was power, not weakness, that the only way to be claimed was to let yourself be visible in the first place. Lyra took the ring, slid it onto her finger, and spoke in a voice that carried through the hall and beyond, into the territory, into the world. I accept. The crowd erupted. Howls shook the walls. Wolves shifted and sang to the moon that was rising outside, and Lyra stood in the center of it all, no longer invisible, no longer hiding, seen, claimed, free. Okay. That night, after the ceremony, after the celebrations, after the crowd had dispersed, Lyra found herself on the balcony overlooking Silverfang. The territory spread out below her like a living thing, lights in windows, smoke from fires, the distant sound of voices carrying on the wind. She'd spent 10 years watching this place from the shadows. Now she was standing above it, part of it, responsible for it. The thought should terrify her. Instead, it felt right. Kael joined her, sliding an arm around her waist. Having second thoughts? He asked. About which part? Any of it. Lyra leaned into him, feeling the bond settle between them like a warm weight. No, she said. No second thoughts. Good, because you're stuck with me now. I know. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the territory. Do you think it'll work? Lyra asked. The coalition, the new council, all of it. I don't know. Kael's honesty was brutal and comforting all at once. Probably not the way we're imagining. There will be setbacks, betrayals, people who want the old ways back. Sounds exhausting. It will be. But it's worth trying. He turned her to face him. Because the alternative is going back to a world where people like you have to hide to survive. And I won't accept that. Lyra's chest tightened. I'm not special, she said. I'm just... Don't. Kael's voice was firm. Don't diminish what you did, what you survived. You spent 10 years in hell and came out strong enough to help start a revolution. That's not nothing. I had help. We all have help. That doesn't make your strength any less real. His hands cupped her face. You're allowed to be proud of yourself, Lyra. You're allowed to take credit for surviving. The words hit something deep inside her. For 10 years, she'd told herself that survival was the bare minimum, that anyone would have done the same in her position. But looking at Kael now, seeing the certainty in his eyes, she wondered if maybe that was wrong. Maybe survival was its own kind of courage. Maybe hiding had been brave, not cowardly. Maybe she'd been strong all along and just hadn't known it. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For seeing me. Before I knew how to see myself. Kael's smile was soft. That's what love is. Seeing someone completely and choosing them anyway. He kissed her, and Lyra kissed him back, the bond singing between them. When they finally pulled apart, the moon had climbed higher, painting everything in silver. What do we do now? Lyra asked. Now? Kael's arm tightened around her waist. Now we build something worth protecting. We fight for the people who can't fight for themselves. We make sure no one else has to spend 10 years hiding just to survive. That's a lot of work. Yeah. Could take the rest of our lives. Probably will. Lyra looked out over the territory again, at the lights and the darkness, at the world they'd fought for and won. "Okay," she said, "let's do it." Hard. 5 years later, Lyra stood in the same hall where she'd been bonded to Kael, but everything was different now. The walls had been repaired, the bloodstains scrubbed away. New banners hung from the ceiling, not just Silverfang's colors, but the emblems of 24 territories that made up the coalition. The council had been reformed. Not disbanded, Arya had been right that some form of governance was necessary, but restructured. Accountable now. Elected by the territories they served rather than self-appointed. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts, still power struggles, still wolves who resented the changes and worked to undermine them. But it was better, and better was enough. Lyra walked through the hall, her hand resting on the slight swell of her stomach. 6 months along now. The healer said it would be a girl. Kael was in meetings with the Western territories, trying to negotiate a trade agreement that would benefit everyone without sparking another war. He'd been gone for 3 days. The bond ached with distance, but she could still feel him, alive, safe, thinking about her, always thinking about her. "You're brooding." Lyra turned to find Arya approaching, her silver hair pulled back, her expression knowing. "I'm not brooding. I'm thinking." "Same thing." Arya stood beside her, looking around the hall. "Your mother would be proud, you know, of what you've built here." "We built it, all of us." "True, but you were the catalyst." Arya's hand found Lyra's shoulder. "You're the reason any of this was possible. The girl who refused to stay hidden, who refused to let fear win." Lyra thought about that girl. 10 years old, terrified, learning how to make her eyes go unfocused, her steps uncertain, her presence forgettable. She'd been so small, so scared, and yet somehow she'd survived long enough to become this, a woman with power, with purpose, with people who loved her and fought beside her. "Do you ever regret it?" Lyra asked. "The choices you made, leaving me alone for so long?" Arya was quiet for a moment. "Every day," she said finally, "but I'd make them again. Because the alternative was watching you die young, the way your mother did. And I couldn't—" Her voice cracked. "I couldn't let that happen." Lyra understood. It was the same calculation she and Kael made every time they took on a new challenge. Every time they pushed for change. Risk everything now or watch everything burn later. "She's kicking," Lyra said, her hand moving to her stomach. Arya's expression softened. "May I?" Lyra nodded. Arya's hand joined hers, and they stood there together, 2 vain women, survivors of a world that had tried to erase them, feeling the future move beneath their palms. "What will you name her?" Arya asked. Lyra had been thinking about that, about names and legacies and the weight they carried. "Elara," she said. "It means light." "Perfect," Arya smiled. "Your mother would love that." The door opened and Kael entered, looking exhausted but victorious. His eyes found Lyra immediately, the bond flaring with relief and love and home. He crossed to her, his hand finding the small of her back. "How'd it go?" Lyra asked. "We have an agreement. It's not everything we wanted, but it's a start." He kissed her temple. "How are you?" "How's she?" "Restless, like her father." Kael's laugh was warm. "She gets that from you." They stood together, Arya excusing herself with a knowing smile, leaving them alone in the hall that had witnessed so much violence and transformation. "I've been thinking," Kael said quietly. "Dangerous. About what we tell her, our daughter, when she's old enough to understand." Lyra looked up at him. "What do you want to tell her?" "The truth." Kael's hand moved to her stomach, covering hers. "That the world can be brutal, that people will try to make her invisible, try to claim her, try to use her, but that she gets to decide who she is, what she's worth, who she lets see her." Lyra's throat tightened. "And," Kael continued, "that being seen is a choice, a brave one, and that choosing to be visible, to fight, to love, that's the strongest thing anyone can do." The words settled over her like truth, like everything she'd learned in the years since that first night when Kael had looked at her and asked her to look back. "Yes," she said. "We tell her that." They stood in the hall as the sun set outside, painting the world in shades of gold and amber. And Lyra thought about the girl she'd been. Blind, broken, hiding in corners. That girl had been brave in ways Lyra was only now beginning to understand. She'd survived. And survival had given her the chance to become this. A woman who didn't hide, who didn't run, who stood in the light and dared the world to look away. The baby kicked again, stronger this time. Lyra smiled. "She's going to be a fighter," Kyle said. "Good." Lyra leaned into him, feeling the bond wrap around them both like armor. "She'll need to be. We'll teach her. Everything we know. Everything we've learned. How to survive. How to fight. How to love." Kale's arms tightened around her. "How to choose when to be seen." Lyra closed her eyes, feeling the weight of his love, the strength of the bond, the future growing inside her. For 10 years, she'd lived by her mother's warning. They only claim what they can see. But she understood now what her mother had really meant. Not that invisibility was safety, but that visibility was power. That being seen was a choice. That the only way to truly live was to step into the light, eyes open, heart exposed, and trust that the people who mattered would choose to see you as you were. Flawed, scarred, surviving, strong. The moon rose outside, full and silver and absolutely certain. And Lyra Vane, once invisible, once nothing, once the girl who survived by disappearing, stood in its light, bonded, powerful, seen, and finally, after everything, free. Not because someone had given her freedom, but because she'd chosen to claim it. One terrifying, beautiful, impossible step at a time. P. In the ruthless Silver Fang territory, where weakness is hunted and power decides fate, a girl learned to vanish. But when survival was no longer enough, when love demanded courage, when the future called for strength, she stepped into the light. And the world that tried to erase her learned the oldest truth of all. True power isn't in being seen, it's in deciding when to be. And she decided.